Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's good? What's good? As y'all already know, this is the Brainz podcast. We got my man BG31 in the building. Our guy, One Trey Rock. You know what I'm saying? And yours truly, Tone Dishes II. Man, look, we appreciate y'all for locking in on this live stream. Make sure y'all smash that like button. Really helps the content grow. Really helps everything get everywhere. And helps everyone see everything.
That intro get me every single time.
Right?
What is up?
Right.
Damn, beautiful people. Y'all are locked in on episode 10 of the Brainz podcast. And as you guys can see, we have a very, very, very special guest, an illustrious guest, one of the most informed guests that we could probably bring on the channel. Our guy, Gate City Sports, formerly known as Mr. Steve Hyder. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, what's good, guys? I appreciate y'all having me on, man. Pumped to talk some Eagles football.
Definitely, man. BG, you know what to do. Let them know how you feeling, man.
Man, I am feeling great. Another day to talk some Eagles ball. And, like, if you got a team like this, it feels good to talk about it. So all you can do is dissect how good your team really is. You know, try to find, things to think that we need to adjust on, I feel like. Because right now, the way this team's looking, the roster's looking great. All we need is these coaches to do what they got to do this offseason and get these players in the right position to win some football games.
Absolutely, man. And speaking of the coaches, you think about all the offseason moves, right, that Howie Roseman made, bringing in Hassan Reddick and Kazir White, drafting Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, trading for A.J. Brown, signing James Bradbury, managing to bring back Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey. There was a plethora of moves that were done to position this team, not just for the now, but definitely for the next 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 years. Now, the question becomes, now that everyone has what they need, now that Howie Roseman is able to sit back and put his hands on his belly and say, work, what can this coaching staff do? How much pressure is on them? I got to ask y'all, between Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon, both of them have got a king's ransom. Both of them got a treasure trove of assets to get things done. Who do you think has the most pressure on them to get things done? Steve, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I'll say that for me, I'd say it's Jonathan Gannon. Nick Sirianni at least has the advantage of saying that, look, we know from my previous track record, I can switch the offense up and do things to win football games. We didn't get a chance to see that really with Jonathan Gannon. It kind of came a little too late for him in the 2021 season. So for me, I think Gannon has the most to prove in terms of a play caller. I'm not ruling him out. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying that we don't know. I mean, we know he's got the talent now. Can he put together a scheme that can actually win football games and not give up, 70% to like 7 or more quarterbacks?
Facts.
Yeah, BG, what's your thoughts?
Facts, all facts, man. I think he is the one that has the most pressure on him. Jonathan Gannon, man. Because we've seen maybe a couple of good games where we're like, okay, this guy calls some good defense, you know what I'm saying? But they were against weaker teams, It seemed like he was too afraid, when he went against legit quarterbacks or, elite head coaches, you know what I'm saying? Like he was just too clamored by their success to actually put together a good game plan. I think that he has all the pressure because he went out and reloaded your defense completely. You know what I'm saying? He brought back the pieces he needs to bring back. He added Jordan Davis, Nakobe D, Kazir White, Kerryon Johnson, the rest of these cats, Hassan Reddick, a bunch of cats to help you out. And then don't forget Bradbury for secondary. You got everything you needed, that all your weak positions last year that you had an excuse for, but we didn't really have the talent. Howie Roseman definitely covered those areas. So now you have all the players you need. And go out there, you hear all this chatter about him being, the next head coach or something. Let's see you be the best defensive coordinator in the league for a year before anybody really start talking about head coaches.
So, knowing what we know, we always talk about what needs to go right. What can go wrong here? What are the things like what are the things that we need to keep our eye on? Because this season is definitely not going to be a talent issue. What potentially could go wrong for these Philadelphia Eagles that may be outside of their control?
I mean, the biggest boogeyman is always going to be injuries. You can't control injuries. You can't control the timing of injuries. And then also, it's easy to look at a schedule in the offseason and say that these are easy wins. Truth be told, nobody knows how good some of these teams are going to be. And that's always a tough thing to predict.
Yeah, what about you, BJ?
Yeah, same. The injury bug is the biggest one. And then, no one can control, really. Are you talking about in terms of like the team or the players either? Because really it's the coaches. Like, no one can control if these coaches want to stick to their guns and do the same thing they did last year, or they want to change. You've heard Gannon already talk about he's doing the exact same thing. So, for the most part, so is he going to, is it just the players? Like, I believe the scheme wasn't that bad last year if you had good linebackers. We went out and got 3 new linebackers, and really 4 new linebackers to add to the mix. A better cornerback to add to the mix. Better pass rusher to add to the mix. So, with that being said, you got these pieces. Now let's see how good that defense can be. Let's see if it actually, does what it has to do.
Right. But the thing is, like Gannon saying, I'm going to do the same thing as last year. I find that a bit hard to see. I want to take it at face value, but at the same time, it's like, how much stock can we put into that? Like, just to straight up say, I'm going to do exactly what I did last year. Well, the league has tape on what you did last year. Now, Steve, this is where you come in, because how much can a defensive coordinator actually change what he does? Because we've seen him do what he did last season with clearly not enough assets, according to him. How much could possibly change? Because when he says we're going to do exactly the same thing, I find that just a bit hard to believe that you're going to approach this season the same way you approached last season. If at all, how much can a defensive coordinator actually tweak or change his scheme?
I think it's highly dependent upon the individual person, to be quite honest. It also has to do a lot with your staff, that downflow that's beneath you and what they're able to teach and what they're comfortable with teaching and getting guys into alignment correctly. That has a lot to play into situations like that, to be honest. I think it helps them that the majority of this coaching staff is fairly young. Our linebacker coach is nearly as young as the linebackers playing for him, to be quite honest. Right. So, I mean, those kind of things do help in that situation. You got someone who's probably a little bit more willing to shake and change things up a little bit there. With that said, I do think there's always going to be those core tenets that make you what you are. And when I look at Jonathan Gannon, the thing that strikes me is this a young defensive coordinator that believes solely in the aspects of getting pressure with 4 men, stopping the run with 4 men, and then dropping back 7 to 8 defenders into coverage? Because that's tricky. He had 16%. Like, it's such a back and forth. 16% pressure rate last year, guys. 31st in sacks. Only one quarterback held the ball for 2.9 seconds or longer. That's not giving your defensive line a lot of time to get home, and it's showing you the underlying kind of stats to that. I will say that I think sometimes some of the players are responsible for some of the things that we saw on film. There's no way a veteran guy of Steven Nelson's ability should be sitting there on a 3rd and 7 when your opponent is backed up inside their own 10-yard line, playing 10 yards off. That shouldn't happen. That should not be happening. Steven Nelson should be experienced enough to say, oh, wait a minute, hang on, man. I got to come up and bring this up a little bit here. I got safety help over the top of me. Why am I playing this far off of this guy? All he's got to do is run a quick out route, and this is a first down.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to understand, right, BG? Like, I'm trying to understand why, because I understand James Bradbury is an upgrade from Steven Nelson. I think we all can say that. But you had, let's just say, Steven Nelson. Can we all agree that Steven Nelson is maybe a B- corner? Is that fair to say?
B+, B-.
I wouldn't put him up to a B+. I think he's C+, B- range in my opinion.
Now, Now, knowing that, right, C plus B minus, okay, that means he's serviceable. And Darius Slay, we would put him at this stage in his career B plus A minus.
Yes.
So when you think about it from that perspective, why be so apprehensive to press? Knowing what we know about this team now and knowing what we knew then, why do you think he was so apprehensive to press, Steve?
It's tough to say because I think sometimes it's heavily dependent upon the players that are inside the scheme, and it's a mixed result here, guys. Because if you go back and you look at 2020 and you look at Steven Nelson's numbers, he did play a lot more man coverage in 2020 than he did in 2021. Gannon ran zone coverage to quite the extreme. I mean, I think it ended up just short of 70-30. I think he was a little heavier than 70% zone, but it was around that area. But truth be told, If you look at like probably the first 9 to 10 weeks of the season, it was pretty close to 80-20 zone demand concepts. That's fine if you have the right players to play in space like that. But you got to have the right players to play in space like that, which has a lot to do with your linebacking core, has a lot to do with those under defenders. If you're running a quarters coverage, that means you're going to have 4 deep defenders. So you're running what's basically a deep zone. And then you got those 3 under defenders. Those under defenders have to be able to cover a lot of ground. You're asking them to pick up a lot of ground. And if they miss, if they have bad angles, if they have bad pursuit, you're going to have a lot of plays that turn into easy first downs. And teams are going to have a pretty easy time moving the ball down the field on you. It's tough because I've seen other teams that run these similar wrinkles have a lot more success than Gannon does, but they also blitz more. And that's where, Brandon Staley, he runs a very similar system. But Brandon Staley had about 24% blitz rate, which is middle of the pack, right there with Dallas, right around 16.
Mm-hmm.
We're sitting there at 16%, 31st. I mean, there's a big disparity in terms of the pressure. And I don't know if that's because he looked at what he had on the roster and said, I just don't have enough linebackers that can fill that type of role. Jannard Avery, I feel like he should have been used more in those type of roles where you're using him more as a pass rusher. But for whatever reason, they just didn't. Like early on in the season, they were kind of showing him coming up in the B gaps and A gaps. I thought we'd see a lot more of that as the season went on. And I felt like we saw the exact opposite. I felt like they pulled back on that a little bit. So, I mean, I'm hoping we see a little bit more creativity. I don't know that we're going to see like all out blitzes from Gannon. I don't feel like that's in his DNA. I do think you might see some more 5-man pressure stuff this year. I think you'll see them work, Nakobe Dean coming up the middle. I think you'll see them work Hassan Reddick off the edge. I think you'll see, maybe some situations to where they're going what they call a power front or a bear front, where you got both guards in the center covered. So you have those one-on-one blocking now. So now you can play around with those outside edge rushers and try to get real pressure there, which is a 5-man pressure front, basically. I think you'll see stuff like that. I just don't know if you'll see the Jim Johnson. I know somebody was asking me about Wink Martindale in the comments. I don't think you'll see that type of pressure, that kind of jailhouse blitz type stuff.
Wow. What's your thoughts on that, BG?
Yeah, I think, like you said, too, like we actually have better players, I feel, in those positions. The linebacker, like I don't think people have really understood how, big of a problem our linebacking core was last year for our defense. Like you just said, 2.9 or 2.6 or something like that. That's how long the quarterbacks had, 2.3, whatever. Like that's not a very long time. So it's not even that weak. Your big boys up front could be getting some pressure. It was the linebackers that are letting these easy routes get open. We watched the Tom Brady game where Tom Brady just went to Leonard Fournette like 20 times in a row. Want to play one-on-one with Singleton and win every time. We watch stuff like that. But with these better upgraded players, I feel like the system, you got a linebacker that's going to be able to cover. You got a linebacker that's going to be able to blitz, So we might not be blitzing that much more. But in terms of, I think we'll see a lot more line stunts, a lot more different personnel, switching it up, hybrid situations where, you might have an extra linebacker on the line of scrimmage as opposed to having one of these D ends out there just to bring more speed and pressure on the quarterback.
Right. So what would make Gannon press this season? And that's what I'm trying to understand about him, because you had 2 serviceable corners last year. You have 2 serviceable corners this year. What situations would make him press this season, Gate City?
I'd say the long story short of it, would be to look over your coverage and see that your coverage is not matching up and it's not syncing up with your pass rush, and you need to create more time. You need to have those guys hold a little bit longer, have quarterbacks hold the ball longer. Like I said, one quarterback over 2.9 seconds. We have other teams in our division that had quarterbacks holding it 10 times out of 17 games, 2.9 seconds or more. Find a mystery that they got home with a lot of sacks because of that. You gotta find ways of making guys hold the ball longer, and that comes down to trusting your secondary. To be honest, now you can run man concepts even in a zone system. Like the chart you see behind me, guys, is all about quarters, about going man zone. You got man match, zone match. There's different concepts even within, an actual like zone system. You can man match. So you got drop quarters, which is you're just dropping to an area in the grass. You have man match quarters, which is you use some man principles within that system. Same thing like when you look at something like a cover 7, right? Cover 7 is a split field look. Part of the field you're playing a cover 3 concept. Part of the field you're playing cover 4 concept. Sometimes within that cover 4 concept, you will see a man press situation down on the wide receiver 1. So you can do some different things there. I hope that we see a little bit more. They keep saying like, oh, his influence is coming from Minnesota. That's Jerry Gray. Jerry Gray was the defensive back coach in Minnesota when he was there. Jerry Gray was the defensive coordinator in Tennessee when he had his first internship. So I hope we see some more of the Jerry Gray nature to things, because Jerry Gray is a zone guy, but he's not afraid to play his corners up a little bit more. He's not afraid to kind of create a little bit more timing. And mind you, he's got Rasul out there playing. Jerry Gray does. So, I mean, I hope we see concepts like that, gentlemen. I don't know that, it's hard to predict, though, man. Like, Gannon says a lot of things, but I don't take a lot of things that he says with a lot of emphasis. Like, I feel like sometimes he's coach speaking.
But you take that time in Minnesota, you look at the linebackers and skill position players that he did have back there. That's the reason why they're the number 1 defense in the league that year. When you had linebackers like Barr, Kendricks, Anthony Harris playing at a Pro Bowl level, you know what I'm saying? Like, you had some really talent. Harrison Smith over there too as well. You had some real talent to really play that defense. Where like people don't understand, when you have talent at every position, that's the goal. It's to like lock up every position where you don't have to worry about talent, so you can play a more straight up defense without having to blitz, without having to, really show your hand before the play. I think we're kind of starting to get those players. Like this year was definitely a big example of it, where you don't have to blitz just because of the talent that you have out there. Those cornerbacks you have, they're going to keep them covered the first, 10 steps of the first 5 to 10 steps of the route. Those linebackers are going to be right there on the tight ends, running backs coming out of the backfield when they first get out. So you don't have that quick 1-2, snap and throw the ball like they did on us all last year. Those are the biggest differences that I think that's going to keep them from having to really blitz a lot more than normal. But, we'll see what happens when he gets to the field this year.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot going on, to be honest, when you look over, like, who we have coming in. Like, everyone talks about James Bradberry and like, well, he had a down year. I disagree if you look at the film. He didn't have a down year. The Giants had a down year. The Giants were trash in terms of their pass rush. I don't mean to be confrontational. I'm just being honest. They had really good coverage. There's an expectation, guys. How long do you want them to hold for? At some point, your pass rush has to get home. Hence the reason they took Thibodeau so high in the draft, because they realized that pass rush was doing their coverage an injustice. And they're going to have some problems because without Bradberry there, they're putting a lot on the plate. They're putting a lot on Jackson's plate out there. So, that's going to be a lot for them to do. This is up to Gannon, man. You've got to create a situation to where you're allowing Bradberry's admitted that there are certain techniques in man press he does not particularly enjoy playing. So you got to find a way of bringing coverage up, allowing him to play zone, but bringing that cushion you're affording receivers to where it's not an easy pitch and catch game all day long. Because that was the biggest problem I had, man. It's like there were guys like Tom Brady that were just like, okay, you want to play 8 yards off? I'm just going to keep throwing these little 3-yard wide receiver, screens, these little tunnel screens, these type of plays on you all day long.
Facts.
Right. Let me bring this up. BG, you mentioned the linebackers, right? And how that was our weakest position group last season. Mm-hmm. Now, my question is, and this is for you, Steve, the linebacker room then in 2021, the linebacker room now in 2022. What can this linebacker group do today with the new faces that we have? Kaiser White, Hassan Reddick, Nakobe Dean. You still have TJ Edwards. Davion Taylor is going to be coming back healthy. You still have Sean Bradley. You brought in Karan Johnson. What can this linebacker group that we have now do that the previous linebacker core can't do? Why was the 2021 group so limited, and why is this 2022 group giving us so many more options?
Sure. In short, man, it's movement in space. We had a guy in Eric Wilson that they felt like was going to fit the scheme, right? He came over from Minnesota. He was there, for many years. He was kind of their third or fourth guy, first off the bench type linebacker for the Vikings. Ended up having a starting role due to injury. Played up and down. But I told everyone right from the jump, when this dude gets here, you're going to hate life when this guy has to play in run defense. He's horrible. I mean, the dude, it was a tragedy to watch film of him in run defense. I mean, this dude did nothing. I mean, it was like his feet were stuck in concrete. He didn't try to even get through and try to get to gaps. He didn't try to read anything. He was basically waiting for offensive linemen to engage him at the second level. It was horrendous. He did the same thing in Philly. But then I think to make things worse, guys, with Eric Wilson in particular, was he was supposed to be a really good coverage linebacker. And there are elements of his game in coverage where he is pretty spectacular. To be honest, he's a good coverage linebacker. But he's a risk taker, and he misses tackles. And you could see early on in the season with Alex Singleton, who's kind of the same way. He played all out. I love the effort that Alex Singleton gave you play in and play out. But those dudes did not do a very good job in terms of the angles and the pursuit that you needed to take to shut down plays. And when you're playing these deeper zones, when you got a drop quarters where you have this 4 deep and you're in a deeper zone and you only have 3 underneath defenders, you need to be better in terms of your pursuit angles. And I thought that those two guys in particular were a little weak in the pursuit angles. And the telltale sign was how fast things changed the minute they put Davion Taylor and TJ Edwards into the lineup, which, by the way, of course, Davion Taylor has movement skills. TJ Edwards, pretty good lateral movement, not a vertical guy. This is not a dude that's going to pressure with his 40 time. But immediately you saw the difference. It had to do with angles. It had to do with the angles they were taking. And you could tell immediately the linebacker core was 100 times better than what it was.
Dive more into that. Okay, so the linebackers, you said Eric Wilson and Alex Singleton, they were risk takers. It's like their feet were stuck in concrete. They lacked movement. They lacked flexibility. They lacked reaction time. You put in Davion Taylor and TJ Edwards. Okay, now we're reacting. Now we're attacking angles. Now we have that lateral movement, that speed from sideline to sideline. Jonathan Gannon noticed the deficiencies we had with the previous group, like I said, Alex Singleton and Eric Wilson, and he brought in Davion Taylor, TJ Edwards, switched it up, which means he's capable of making adjustments, right?
Yeah, he is. He switched it up in terms of the personnel. And I think what was happening, in my opinion, I haven't had a chance to talk to those guys to really get their take on why they were a little slow in terms of the reaction. But I do think that part of Gannon's system is that your defensive line is supposed to keep your linebackers clean. And we can point out that I love Hargrave. Hargrave is a tremendous pass rusher. He's got some things to be desired as a run defender, though, to be fair. And I don't think that they always kept their will linebacker in particular clean. And I think you would see a lot of times that these dudes were easily climbing the second level and getting up on them. But the problem is that these guys were processing the information too slow because it's a read and react style of defense. And if your reaction time is just that much too slow, just that slow, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, man. You got a guy that's got you by 100 pounds all over you. And then immediately when you got Davion in there and you got TJ in there, it's hard to say this, but I feel like they were just like, I would much rather move my feet and shoot a gap and be wrong than to have these dudes on top of me and me looking stupid on film review on Monday.
Okay.
I felt like that's basically what those two guys came up to. That was the conclusion it came to. It was like, I'd rather be overly aggressive and maybe guess wrong on the gap than to sit here and allow these guys to get up on us like this. And then we're in the film room and we're looking stupid because we're getting knocked off the ball 7-8 yards. I mean, I thought that's what simply would happen. I just thought those guys they were quicker in the decision of like, okay, we're willing to be wrong. We're willing to be wrong. And then they had the lateral movement ability that they can easily keep kind of what they call scraping. So it's scraping down your line. So they were able to kind of push things to the other side and then get into pursuit more. I thought Davion Taylor in particular was very impressive doing that. It's something I didn't expect because you remember in Davion Taylor's rookie season, that guy looked lost out there. He did not look like he was ready for the NFL to me. And it was a big surprise because once he got into the lineup, I felt like he really got it from a run defense standpoint.
Now, and BG, I want you to jump on this question too after Steve answers. So, knowing what we know about the previous regime and knowing what Jonathan Gannon wants, and also who we have now, this current regime, Nakobe Dean, TJ Edwards, Davion Taylor, Kaiser White. Based on what you said, the read and react style of defense, who in the linebacker room should be the starters based on their ability to grasp that concept of the read and react? Essentially, who do you think in our linebacker room is the best equipped or the most equipped to do exactly what Jonathan Gannon needs to get done?
Want to go first, BG?
Nakobe Dean, Kaiser White, and Hassan Reddick. Those are 3 starters with TJ Edwards rotating in. Being that rotational guy, so you never really drop off ever. You kind of stay low key. TJ Edwards just he can go a little bit, play a little bit of the inside, play a little bit of outside still, hold his ground to the point where, like you were saying, it was really experience and talent are the biggest 2 reasons why this is a different, linebacker core. These guys are just better players. I keep telling you guys, Edwards was good because he was on our team. And he was, we've seen so much crappy linebacker play that soon we've seen someone else doing this job. We're like, whoa, this guy's a stud. This guy's a straight stud. He is the man. And he definitely earned to be back on the team again. And he definitely is a solid football player. But if you, like I said, you put him against all the best linebackers in the league on all 30 teams, he's going to be low on that ranking. He's not going to be up there high like, oh, just TJ Edwards is one of the best linebackers in the league. No. We actually got players now that you can do that. In terms of pass rush linebackers, you look at a guy like Reddick. Reddick's been consistently double-digit sacks. We haven't had a guy consistently double-digit sacks since when? It's been a minute, since we had anybody really getting double-digit sacks over here. So he's kind of one of the best in his position. Kaiser White, nice, young, up-and-coming linebacker, had his best year last year. Well, he played some really good football last year, and I think he's on he's ascending. We don't even know his talent, what level he can get to, and with the big hogs we got up front, that still can go even higher. Because I believe we have a better defensive line than they had in San Diego. I think it's a lot stronger and deeper here. So knowing that can make his game go up even higher. And if it goes up any higher than last year, then that's you're looking at a Pro Bowl linebacker. And then you go to Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean's the linebacker we haven't had on this team in forever. We haven't had a field general. That's why when y'all heard, like, when LB has said that Dean can be a better linebacker than Parsons, I agree too, because Parsons is more of a Reddick, whereas like he's a play linebacker, but he's a pass rusher, basically extending tweener, defensive end. Basically, if you want to look at it, it's hybrid player, linebacker. But Dean is a field general, and we have the pieces, so we don't have to worry about putting them at end. We don't have to worry about, of course, there'll be middle linebacker blitzes, every defense got them, but it's not a featured part of the defense, He's that guy that's going to be calling the shots, telling people where to go, and you seen him in his highlights at college, man. This guy was always, that was the biggest thing I took away from his college tape was like the fact that he can diagnose the play before it happened. And as soon as that quarterback hiked the ball, he was already in full steam going in the direction of where the play was going. And he already knew who was getting the ball on the play before the play even happened, where he was having to do tackles for loss. Like that, to me, that's a linebacker. I diagnose it. As long as I'm clean, he's a smaller guy, so you need to keep him clean. And Jordan Davis did a good job at that. And guess what? Jordan Davis on our team. And we got, big guys that are already here. Fletcher, like we said, Hargrave. These guys are some of the best to do it. So you can best believe he's going to be clean to do that kind of stuff in the NFL. So I do believe he can actually be a way better linebacker. Overall linebacker than Parsons, yeah. in terms of like, if you're talking about them hybrid linebackers, that's when, you got to see what Parsons can do in year 2. If he does it again, yeah, he's one of the better like pass rushing linebackers. But when I say the Eagles always had linebackers, we just never had a field general linebacker, a middle linebacker. That's what a real true middle linebacker does. He just controls, he's like air traffic control. He controls the field. You know what I'm saying? He's the general. He makes sure everybody's where they need to be when they need to be, keeping them motivated, keeping them hyped up. You watch the clips where, who was a Walker missed a play and he got his ear. Hey, what are you doing, man? Come on. You know what I'm saying? That's next play. Walker makes a hell of a play. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's what you need in your middle linebacker. And I think Nakobe Dean's that guy. And the sky's the limit for them. I think I'm penciling them in right now as defensive player of the year. I mean, rookie, not player of the year, rookie of the year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you think in terms of the linebacker position and who in the crew is probably the best equipped? Shout out to my man One Trey Rock coming in the building. And I also want your thoughts on this too, Trey Rock, after Steve gives his. But Gate, like the linebacker position, like I said, we the talent is there, right? But to do exactly what Jonathan Gannon needs to get done, that read and react style, that understanding angles and concepts and having that lateral speed sideline to sideline, who on this roster now at the linebacker position is most equipped to execute what Jonathan Gannon needs to get done?
See, that's a tough question because here's the thing. You have 2 draftable assets that you're talking about and 3rd-round picks in Nakobe Dean and Davion Taylor. So you spent draft capital there. You've got them on the roster for a longer period of time. You got 2 guys that I think can really play football in TJ Edwards in Kaiser White. I think those 2 dudes are high-level football players.
Interesting. What do you see? Real quick, what do you see specifically in those guys?
Kaiser White's movement skills they're crazy to watch on film. That young man is better in the run support department than you would think, especially for a dude that, I'll be honest, they might list him at 225 and 230, but they're straight line. Like, I highly doubt it. The dude's just tough-nosed, man. He's just a tough-nosed dude. And he's pretty good in run support, and it shocked me because I thought he was going to get blown off the ball, to be honest. But outside of that, man, if you watch him in his drop sets when he's dropping and he's reading quarterbacks, he's pretty good, and he's a decent pass rusher. I don't think he got used enough, honestly, with the Chargers as a pass rusher. I thought there's a little bit more potential there with him. I think he's a really good football player. I honestly thought he was clearly the best linebacker on the Chargers, and I think they knew it too. And I think they got themselves into quite a little pickle there because they drafted these players. They needed to get them in front of Kaiser White, but Kaiser White ended up having a crazy good year last year. And they were like, okay, now we're stuck in a situation. And if you listen to all the Charger fans, they did not want this guy walking out. They didn't. But then again, Davion Taylor had a really good year. He's a really good run defender. He's quite athletic. I don't know where he is in terms of his ability to actually play in coverage. I don't think the sample size is large enough to adequately judge it, if I'm being honest.
Is it fair to say Davion Taylor is instinctually premature and his best years are ahead of him?
Sure. Yeah, I still think he's learning the game for sure. With that said, I mean, he's a draft pick. He's still got this year and next year underneath contract. It's a tough decision, man. I think it's one of these situations where you let the best players play. You go in, you let them play. And I would not be shocked, and I'll say something controversial, I would not be shocked if TJ Edwards does not start over Nakobe Dean initially. But I think we all know it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time. The countdown's on. We know it's going to be Nakobe Dean's spot eventually. It's just a matter of when it happens. Is it going to be week 1? Or is it going to be like week 6, week 7-ish? It's one of those situations to where TJ Edwards is going to slowly start losing snaps. Right now, TJ Edwards we know that dude can stop the run. He's one of the better linebackers in the league at doing it. But Nakobe Dean's not soft in run support. So if he can show that he's got the ability to diagnose plays, to read and react fast, and not let that size advantage be something that holds him back, then I think it's only a matter of time. Nakobe Dean will take that spot. And then TJ Edwards will revert back to a role player again.
Wow.
I think the real question will be is, what are they going to do with a guy like Kyron Johnson? How fast can we simulate him into the system? He's a guy he's a 6th-round pick. I don't know how fast you can get him in there playing, but the underlying pass rush ability is there. And that dude can play on ball and off ball.
Wow.
He's pretty good.
What's your thoughts, Trey Rock, on that linebacker position?
For me, I feel like I like TJ Edwards more than a lot of people do because I seen this dude in the trash, like really a trash linebacker course stand out. And maybe it's just because he was the best linebacker we had, but I also watched him a lot in college. And the dude was a dog. I don't understand how he went undrafted or nothing like that, but he was a dog in college. So
that 40 time, that's what happened. It was that 40 time.
Yeah, it probably was the measurables, but he's a football player when he's on the field. Like it's like so with me, I don't even feel like I feel like he deserves to at least start the season off as our starting middle linebacker. And we can work Nakobe Dean in. I mean, eventually we know he's gonna take that spot. But like you said with Kaiser White, I kind of like him because he's versatile. He played safety in college. So I mean, he put a little bit more pounds on, but he got a little bit more solid. But he's still a safety at heart. So he could cover. He's a little bit better as a pass rusher than people give him credit for too. And he's all over the field, sideline to sideline. He's a good, solid tackler. And we all know what Reddick could do. He double-digit sacks the past 2 seasons. So I feel like with this linebacker core, we could be way more aggressive than we was last year. Like, way more aggressive. Like, I mean, edge blitz right up the middle. We got the big guys up front to move some furniture and clear some space for these linebackers. So I feel like if Gannon can't get this right here, he's not the man for the job. Because even with the guys in back of him, Sean Bradley, Davion Teller, these dudes they're solid like at rushing the passer too. I don't feel like he used them right either. He didn't use them right last year. So I mean, Gannon will have to get his stuff together. I feel like this linebacker core could be great with the front four we got. So I mean, now it's just wait and see. Just wait and see how Gannon manages this.
Now let me ask y'all this real quick. Knowing what we know now, what we all just said, what we know about this linebacker core, I know we talk a lot about what we're going to do to the opposing offense, right? With our linebacker core, our D-line, so on and so forth. How would a team attack our defense? How would a team attack our linebacker core? Or where are the weaknesses in the linebacker room, if you had to say any? Steve, you want to start?
Depends on the rotation you have out there at linebacker. You got to get past the defensive line. That's going to be the struggle the teams are going to have. You got to move these guys off the ball. But if you can climb to the second level and you don't have TJ Edwards out there, you don't have Davion Taylor, who I think is a really good run supporter. If it's more of the, you climb the second level, and now you got Nakobe Dean matched up on a 320-pound, offensive lineman, and you got Kaiser White, matched up on a 320-pound lineman. I think that's what teams would want to do. They'd want to get physical and get to the second level with those guys. Misdirection. I think that one of the things you want to do if you want to slow down a pass rush is you use misdirection. You try to use misdirection. You try to go speed. You're going to go fast. We'll see what they do, man. It's tough because some of this has to do with Gannon, how Gannon structures things. I mean, if Gannon's giving them easy 7-8 yard cushions on the outside, like it ain't going to be too hard to defeat any defense, to be quite honest. Like, you could definitely do things too. I mean, depending on how Gannon structures things, if you're playing, if they're playing heavy zone, then they'll probably try to use things like flood concepts and high-low concepts. They'll try to use stuff like that to get the matchups. I mean, that's what they'll do. They'll attack the matchup.
What do you guys think, BG and Trey?
Go ahead, BG.
In terms of attacking our linebackers, really, like I said, like I feel like, they solve those problems. Like obviously, the plays are going to be made to the NFL, but there's not really, to me, real weakness. Now you got depth. Because now you do, like I said, you guys think Edwards might start losing this role. I think it's more like you might get Nakobe Dean in on the 2-down linebacker. You know what I'm saying? Where he's in there first couple plays, you rotate Edwards in and see how he works out. By the time the season starts, it's probably going to be a rotation, in my opinion. And then you still got Davion Taylor, to come in and rotate people. So it's like you got so many of these guys, like that's not a weakness anymore for us. Like they're just as good as any other linebacking core, I think, in the NFL right now. It might be a little bit more better just for the 3 different types of linebackers. Like people don't realize it's a team sport to win a Super Bowl. It's about having the complete team. You can have the same players, the same type of linebacker and 3 of them, as opposed to like 3 other guys that are 3 different type of linebackers, but maybe not be as good as them individually, because it's about team. You need every piece to be there. Like I say, you got your pass rushing linebacker, you got your coverage linebacker, and you got your field general linebacker. Having all 3 of those is going to be a really big key, and I think it really helps out our defense.
Trey?
I just feel like we might I feel like we might struggle with the more physical offensive lineman because it's just our linebacking core is we brought in some good guys, but we small at the linebacker position. So it's like, how they gonna fare when they get those big 300, 350, 6'6" guys running straight at them? I feel like if our line could control up front, the Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, Hargreaves, if they could control that and like hold those double teams up and let our linebackers run free, I feel like we'll be good. But for a line like a Cleveland Browns line or somebody, I feel like we'll struggle with that. Even when it comes down to the blitzing, just getting washed down, stuff like that. I feel like these dudes gonna have to play physical because they're smaller. You can't just go in there all soft or nothing like that because you're going to get blew up, especially in the Kobe Dean. And Kobe Dean is a small guy. But he know how to work angles and stuff like that. But still, if a guy more physical, is bigger than you, more physical, it ain't really nothing you could do. So I feel like we're going to just struggle with big physical offensive linemen.
Now, we talked about the linebacker core. We talked about the corners to a degree and the coverage, but now let's go down to that, to the point of contact, the linemen. Those, I think that is going to be, however our linemen are doing is going to dictate how our defense is doing in general. And you guys mentioned we need to control things at the point of attack. We need to control things on the defensive line. If we lose control there, our linebackers are cooked, basically. Now, Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, and Steve, you can lead off with this. What are the expectations when you have 3 big-bodied guys like that can just plug up any hole? Guys that can plug a leak in the damn Titanic. Like, how do you anticipate Gannon using those guys? Because in my opinion, I'm really curious. I would love to see some 2-5 or 5-2 concepts where you have five guys on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
and then you have 2. Yeah, you have 2 linebackers. So that's something I anticipate. Obviously Jordan Davis being the nose tackle, but what's your vision for the defensive line and how we're going to attack not just attack the quarterback, but also stop the run?
I think there's it's difficult to say, honestly, just because we don't know how they'll play the 50 front. So, technically a 50 front just means you got 5 guys down around the line of scrimmage. Right. So you got 5 guys committed to being on ball. So you can do that in multiple ways, right? You can do it in the way that Quentin Michael was talking about, where he was talking about going power or bear front, meaning you're covering up both guards in the center. So you got 2 3 techs and a 0 tech. And then you're bringing down your edge rushers on the outside, those rush linebackers, if you will. You can do it that way, right? You can do a traditional Okie, which is a 34, which means you got a nose tackle, a 0 tech, 1 tech, 0 shade, 2 eye, however you want to align them. And then you got 2 5 techniques. The difference is when you're Okie, the way you know it is that each guy on the line is 2 gapping. Then you can either bring rush linebackers on the outside of those 5 techniques, or you can bring them down into like the B gaps if you want to. Just depends on how you want to play that, right? There's the eagle front. Eagle front means you got a nose tackle, 2 4 eyes, so inside shoulder of the tackle, so closer to the guard. And then you're going to basically, those guys are 1 gapping. Those outside guys are going to be in a 1 gap. Nose tackle's probably still going to be 2 gap responsibility in an eagle. And then you're going to walk down how you want to walk down your linebackers. Do you want to bring it from, B gap pressure? Do you want to bring outside pressure? How do you want to do that? Then you can also play a 40 front, which is an under front. I know you guys are probably like, man, I should have brought a notebook because you don't name 5 fronts already.
I love this, right? Last time I had you on the channel, I said, Gates, all right, break that one down for me, bro. I love this stuff because your approach to the game is so technical. And I think outside of the passion that, BG would give and, outside of that analysis that Trey Rock would give or, You know what I mean? Outside the energy that I would give, you need that analytical, that person that's going to break it down from a fundamental standpoint, and that's where you come in. So I love what you're doing right now.
Yeah. So an underfront, you can bring a 4-3 or 4-2-5 if you're in a nickel. You go in an underfront, which just basically means you have a nose tackle that will be aligned towards the strong side of the offense, and on the weak side of the offense, you're going to have a 3 technique, and then you'll have a 5 technique outside of him. Well, when you have that 3 and that 5 technique, those guys have got to keep the will linebacker clean, especially for run responsibility. If you let a lineman get up onto the weak side linebacker, you're in a lot of trouble. You're going to lose containment because he's got to scrape off the edge. He has to move that. He's got to move the play back to the strong side if it's a run play. But the importance is that now you have one-on-one matchups on that weak side of the offensive formation. So if you got a will linebacker you trust that can get pressure and can blitz, you can utilize that athleticism, right? If you got a 3 technique that you think is a stud, i.e. Javon Hargrave, and can beat a one-on-one matchup, that's a problem because now with a guy like Jordan Davis, you can't cheat with help. And if you do, you're going to pay a price because Jordan Davis is going to absolutely drive back a center. Every center in this league is going to need help on Jordan Davis. So that's where it comes into play. So
the real thing is, do you think that it's really like people are really underestimating? Like I was talking to Chris McPherson yesterday on the show, and I was like, dude, I really think people are really underestimating Jordan Davis' impact. Like his impact, his floor is so high. His floor, in terms of being a run stopper in general, and bringing some pass rush without the big numbers. Like you're already talking about like elite type defensive tackles just from his size alone. They don't make guys that big, that athletic, that fast. You know what I'm saying? Like normal, that's like we were all hyped up about Fletcher Cost's athleticism and size coming out of college. This dude's bigger than Fletch. Like he's bigger than Fletch completely. He makes Fletch kind of look like a normal dude. He makes a lot of people look like a normal dude. So I think that's going to be a huge impact for our defensive line. Like he might not have to play the full. I heard someone say they probably want to get him around 50% of the snaps. And I go, you can even probably do like 40% of the snaps even still, and he'll still be able to make a huge enough impact. But like you said, there's not one center out there that's going to be able to take him one-on-one. He pretty much got doubled and triple teamed his whole career in college.
Yeah.
So, and then you've seen what he did against the Alabama line. They tried to triple team him. All he did was plant that back leg and turn his hips. Boom. All 3 of the dudes went the other way. And that's 3-on-1. These are big linemen that are in the, I think one of them was Neil, and he's in the NFL right now. So that's what kind of impact. Like people are really tripping out. They're not understanding how big of an impact this guy's about to have for our football team.
Exactly. They're not, because I don't think that in the build up to the draft and things like that, I don't think that a good enough job was done to kind of explain it. Because, the focus is like this guy did not have a ton of opportunity at Georgia to rush the passer. What he has on film from a pass rush perspective is purely a bull rush, which is a really good bull rush because this dude's just bigger than everybody and stronger. But there's not a lot of nuance to the pass rush. He doesn't have a lot of tools in the tool bag. He's just an exceptional athlete. With that said, when you're talking about getting one-on-one matchups, he doesn't have to think. He doesn't need to set up a pass rush. He just needs to beat the guy that's in front of him that he is faster than, stronger than. He's the better athlete than. He just needs to win. And the only way that dude's stopping him is by having flawless technique. And I got to tell you, that's a hard assignment, man, because if that dude is around 340, 350 with his movement speed, the only thing that can stop Jordan Davis is Jordan Davis.
I'm glad you said that. Let's stay there real quick. I'm glad you said that. We've heard rumors that, he was at training camp and he kind of was huffing and puffing and had his hands on his hips and didn't really come to OTAs really in shape. And, also that, entering that SEC championship game, he was dragging a little bit. And then he got to the national championship, took it up a notch. So what can be said about the up and down nature of his approach to being in peak physical form? Because they say all this kid needs to do to be successful is just stay in shape. So what's your thoughts on these rumors about his conditioning and his desire or his love for the game?
That's a tough one
go ahead.
because I want to say, I'll let you go, BG. I just say one thing, which is you would love to have more of a role model in the building. I love Fletch. Fletch can teach them everything about technique, everything about the desire to stay on the field, even when you're not in the best of shape. But let's be real. The Eagles have had these concerns about Fletcher Cox, and they have publicly addressed them, worrying about his conditioning before. So I really wish there was a better veteran in the building to kind of prep his body. But even the guys that we brought in that were these phenomenal players, right, that were just absolute like Greek gods in terms of the way that they were built. You know, the Malik Jacksons in them, they couldn't stay on the field. Those dudes got hurt. To be straightforward, those dudes got hurt a lot, honestly. And that always makes me wonder a little bit. But I will say that's going to come down to the sports science department inside the Philadelphia Eagles and strength and conditioning. I mean, you know, it's a fine line that you got to walk there. I think that they realize this young man has got to stay around that 335 to about 350 range. They need him right around that range. It's crazy because like people say that and they're like, oh man, 350, that's still like 25 pounds too heavy. Like, have you seen this dude standing next to other defensive tackles? He's a big human being. Like a dude that's like 6'2", 310, they're pretty similarly built, honestly. I mean, it's just he's taller and far more athletic. Like, I mean, I ain't seen many people that make Fletcher Cox look small, bro. He made Fletch look small.
Thanks. Yeah, and to add to that too, is like in college, like you said, he wasn't asked to do much. He's a college kid, dude. He's having fun. He's playing on one of the best defenses ever, you know, at one of the best colleges, you know, ever to go to, and you know, for college football. This dude, you know, they blew out so many teams where he didn't really even have to play the second half of the game anymore because Georgia was already beating him by so much. So that's why when people throw out that percentage, oh, he only played 30% of the snaps or whatever, it's like, come on, really? Like Georgia used to kill people by first half and done. Like, why would you need to put in one of your best players, you know, to even come in and play? And another thing is at the championship game, he was 360. He's already showed you, you know, he made it to the combine at, 345? So he's already shown you that he cares about this. You know, it is something passionate to him. And besides that, I think the fact that his mom's a huge Eagle fan, he's going to go be a good Eagle for his mom. You know what I'm saying? So he's going to keep working harder. And he can lose, like you said. I don't really want people think he needs to go down 325. I would love him to stay at the 335 range, 340 range. Just stay there and just tone it up and, you know, fill it out. Because at that
here's the thing about that, though. He's tall.
Mess with him.
Here's the thing about it. He's tall, right? You don't want that after a while as you age. That starts to take a toll on them knees, those ankles. So I think it's important for him maybe to try to trim down.
But he's already lost so much weight is what I'm saying. He played all college at 360 plus. Plus, because you know, if it was a championship game 360, he probably was partial college where he's bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? Like during that time when everybody's saying he was being lazy and you see that big jump in his game, it's probably, you know, that's probably him working out a little bit harder than he should, you know, than he was, to the point where he made it to 360. Like he's already lost like 20 pounds. Like, you know, you're running a 40-yard dash, that speed. If you lose 10 more pounds, how fast do you run the 40? I think I seen someone said in the draft that this dude like was faster than TJ Watt coming out of college. And he weighs way more than TJ Watt. And you see how much of an impact TJ Watt is. But I get you being so tall, the knees, that does come into effect. But, you know, he's still so young. I'm not worried about that till his second contract.
Got it. Trey, what you think?
It's not even really the size thing for me. It's more of he is like a one-trick pony, and he doesn't bend well. So, I mean, I feel like offensive linemen, like veteran offensive linemen, will take advantage of that because he doesn't bend well. He stands straight up. I mean, he misses a lot of tackles inside too because he's always standing straight up. So, I mean, he's going to have to work on a lot of technique in the NFL, man, to really be an impact player. I mean, it's a good thing we got two veterans in front of him, so he's going to be a rotational guy to start. But, I mean, from the tape I watched on Jordan Davis, I mean, he's going to dominate dudes because he's big. It's just, I mean, he takes a lot of plays off, and he doesn't bend his knees well. He stands straight up. So, I mean, that's why you come to the NFL and work. He really just beat everybody with athleticism in college. There's gonna be times where you're gonna have those dudes in front of you, those veteran offensive linemen. They done seen everything. You're not gonna beat them dudes that easy, just about pure size and strength. So, I mean, he just got work, and he don't have to be our starter this year. So, I mean, I'm fine with him being in the 4-man rotation.
But in terms of get him to work, he's going against one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. You got big guys like Mailata, Landon Dickerson that you get to
Very good
practice.
point.
Yeah, there's not normal. Like we say the same thing about Jordan Davis too. We say about Mailata. There's not that big of freaking left tackles. Mailata's not the most perfectly sound technician. It's the fact that he's a giant and he does have speed, so that he can supplement some of that technical stuff with his speed and athleticism. You're about to go against these guys in practice every single day. You know what I'm saying? I would even line them up some days the whole day. You're going against Landon Dickerson, who's a freak of nature, and Mailata, who's a freak of nature. Put them both side by side. Let the boy work all day. Like, he has the tools. The thing that you're saying about, the one trick pony type stuff. Like, you got two of the best ever, Fletcher Cox and Hargraves, in front of you to teach you. You know what I'm saying? Mel Williams had a great year last year too. He has some experience, so he's a little bit ahead of you too. So you got this guy to, lean on too. And then you got guys on the offensive line, the Kelsey's, who's like the best center ever, who's going to be able to tell you, to show you his tricks that he's going to be doing to bigger people. You know what I'm saying? If the guy's going out there and he's actually trying to learn lessons from these offensive linemen, you got the Kelsey's, you got the Lane Johnsons at tackles, you got the Sam Mala and Landon Dickerson's at guard, and then you also got, the big guy out, in Mailata to just work on him. He's the same size as you. They're looking at each other like, what's up? Who's better?
I feel like leverage gonna be his problem in the NFL. That's all.
Because he's so tall, right? Because he's so tall.
He can't really get down. And there's gonna be those dudes that try to get up under him. So and stopping him, not necessarily pushing him back, it's just getting in his way. I mean, he can't really give you too much after you get in his way. So, I mean, it's going to be a work in progress, man. Hopefully it'll work out.
But it is fair to say he comes into the NFL with a very, very good floor, a very good foundation to work with, right, Steve?
Thanks.
Yeah, I've known this young man since he was a junior. I mean, he played at Mallard Creek in Charlotte. So
word.
I mean, he started off his junior year. He doesn't really have that much experience playing football, guys, to be honest. I remember going down there to see this young man play and just being like, who's the big dude? Like what dude? I'm like, the dude is taking up half the field. What are you talking about? What do you mean, what big dude? That dude. Like, come on. Like, it's crazy to think about this, but in Charlotte at Mallard Creek, you had Jordan Davis. And in Hickory, North Carolina, which is outside of Charlotte, I think he played at South Caldwell High School. You had Landon Dickerson. Yeah, there's a lot of talent coming out of that region, man. There's a lot of talent coming out of Charlotte, man, to be honest. And he's definitely one of them, man. He's got that nasty streak too, man. He's a mean dude, man. I think he's got that edge to him, and I'm excited to see what he does. I'm excited to see what he does the first time somebody really hits him. Someone really tries to challenge him.
Somebody try to ring his bell.
Somebody reacts to that.
And another thing with that Pat level thing too, like you see this guy's launching out. Like, you gotta look at like how many good offensive linemen in general. Like, when you talk about the best centers, guards, you know what I'm saying? Like, how many of those guys are actually big in the first place? Like, that does matter in terms of being, 150 pounds bigger than another guy, 100 pounds bigger than another guy. That matters huge. And I don't care what technique you're going, he gets low enough to make sure that you ain't moving him. Like I said, you can go look at the film. Like, it's hard to move this man. Like, if anything, if you're a little guy, he's about to move you out of the way quick in a hurry. You seen him. So whenever they did try to throw, single blocks on the guy shed it so fast just from his size. The arm, man, he's just moving you. Hey, thanks, little guy. Cool. Hike, cool. See you later. Like, I'm out of here, because usually the guys that size don't have the speed too. And when you add that speed to it, that makes him like I said, his floor, like you said, Villa type guy, but his ceiling is the best defensive player we ever see on that line ever. You know what I'm saying? Like no one can dispute that. You think Aaron Donald's good? Like this guy can literally be the opposite of Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's so good because he's so strong and small and compacted with quickness. And this guy's got the quickness, and he's bigger, and he's athletic, and he's young. So we might be able to see him do something that we never seen before. Like I said, no one's
Aaron
came
Donald's
out of
so
the
good
draft
because
ever
he got
that
everything
size.
inside.
But no
For
one's
real,
ever
for real.
came out of the draft that size, that much athleticism was a first round pick.
It's,
I'll
bro,
say this.
I
think
seen. Go ahead.
I think where he's going to cause problems is everyone's discounting this, but this is important. I don't think the leverage is going to be a big issue with him because centers are going to have to. They still got to worry about the snap. He's going to cause a massive amount of pre-snap penalties because they're going to have to try to cheat to beat him off the line, and I think it's going to cause a massive amount of penalties.
Interesting.
He's going to be a wrecking force. Now, if he starts playing some 3 technique and stuff, I think One Tree Rock's got a point that, just like Calais Campbell and those dudes, you got very physically and gifted guys, but you got to learn to play. You got to learn to play with proper pad level, and you got to be really careful about hip flexibility, stuff like that. Like a lot of people don't realize, like engaging your hips and stuff like that as a defensive lineman, how important that stuff is. Like, it's pretty amazing to hear guys like Jalen Williams and those dudes talk about like how important that aspect of the game is and how that kind of can cause you to lose leverage real quickly if you don't have proper hip.
And I like that you even mentioned Calais Campbell because you seen he was one of the first guys who went out and reached out to him because he's just happy to say, man, he's like, there hasn't been many me's out here. Mm-hmm. It's so awesome and it's such an honor to see the next generation of me because before him there wasn't very many and before that person wasn't very many. So now Jordan Davis is that next big Goliath guy that's coming into the league. And you see these guys, they weren't even close to being the speed of Jordan Davis. Like Calais Campbell, I think we go back to his 40-yard dash. You're talking about a six flat type guy. This guy's not running no freaking 4.7. You know what I'm saying? Like every year people get bigger, faster, stronger. This is the evolution of Calais Campbell. He's seen it off the jump, and that's why I think he reached out to him so fast. He was like, hey, man. And I think even guys, when you see stuff like that, he's going to call Jordan Davis up. He's going to be like, hey, man, here's some moves I did. Everybody knows that I'm big, so this is what they try to do to you. This is what they try to do. And Jordan Davis would be smart here, reach out to a guy like Calais Campbell to get that information.
I think Gannon has to be smart. I think he needs to be smart and kind of like what One Tree Rock was saying, which is simplify it for Jordan Davis. Don't make him overthink things. Put him in a situation where it's like, look, all I need you to do is at the hike, at the snap. I just need you to beat this man. I don't need you overthinking. I don't need you gapping in a half. I don't need you maybe 2 gapping depending on what we're doing at the particular time. But really and honestly, what I need you to do is to control this gap. Just control this area is what I need you to do. Let them overcommit players to you and we'll counter it. Like that's what really needs to happen. But I'm sorry, One Tree Rock. You've been trying to talk for like 5 minutes, man. Go ahead.
No, I love that because that's simple football right there. Let them double, triple team you. That opened up for somebody else to eat. That's what he did in Georgia. But what also scares me about Jordan Davis is he's a big dude moving that fast. You know how much torque he putting on those ligaments? That's the scary part about it. That's the scary part about it. That's why we need him to get down to about the 320-ish range like that because he's big and he's massive. All it takes is one cut, tearing those ligaments up. He's a big dude. That's a lot of weight he's carrying around. So
the opposite of that is he's so young that you let him and you make him do it as much as possible now before those things get wore out, before those things become really an issue. Like, we care about players. We want to see them play for our team for a long time. But if you're a GM and you got this guy on your team, you're trying to maximize it now. You're trying to put him in the best situation now and get him as much, they're learned up as fast as possible and out there playing at a high level as soon as possible. It's just so, because you already know that when you drafted him, that this dude's not going to last. Calais Campbell, like really a rare breed, like big guys that last for as long as he does. And they don't usually last that long. He's still playing right now. And that's a long career, but that's because he learned how to, to handle that and control his body. And it's like I said, like it all matters to what Jordan Davis wants. Because if Jordan Davis eats right, if he, trains right, if he does what he needs to do, he'll be around for a long time.
Facts. Let's transition to the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm curious, Tone. Like, they've been trying to address this nose tackle position since Gannon got here, and I think one of the biggest misunderstandings is what occurred last year in the 3rd round. I think people generally think that Tom Donahue did not like Milton Williams, and that's not what happened. They wanted a nose tackle. They wanted a Lee McNeil out of NC State because he was another one of these, he's one of these freaks athletically. Dude that was like playing linebacker at like 280 pounds in high school.
So to your point, why choose Milton Williams then?
They didn't want to. They thought they could get a Lee McNeil by trading.
We had that conversation. You're right. We had that conversation.
They leapfrogged them. Detroit leapfrogged them when they saw the opportunity, and they jumped ahead and took them. But look, I mean, to be fair, the plan B was a pretty good plan B. I mean, they did a heck of a job scouting that. But, I mean, it just shows you how much that nose tackle position mattered to them. And then they followed it up in the 6th round by taking Marlon Tuipulotu, which I don't know what happened there. I had higher expectations of Marlon Tuipulotu. I knew he was a little beat up coming out of USC. I mean, he had some back issues, but I was a little shocked. I thought he was better than what he showed last year because, I mean, he barely touched the field, to be honest. Yeah. And then they went out and signed this offseason. After drafting Jordan Davis, they signed Noah Ellis as well. Another massive human being. Big dude. I mean, to me, it seems like they're trying to hedge their bets here. And I think it kind of goes to One Tree Rock's point, which is if you got a guy this big and this athletic, then you do have a higher probability of turning the wrong way and your body going one way and your joints and ligaments going the other. It's always going to be a possibility with a dude this athletic, this big. But I also feel like they're hedging that bet by making sure that if they switch the scheme to complement this, that you might lose that ability to dominate at the same level, but you don't lose the ability to run the scheme. Is what it feels like they're trying to create those insurance policies. And I know people don't like this, and I've heard people like down talk it. Now I can tell you right now, the San Francisco 49ers are real happy to have signed Hassan Ridgeway. And I know it's a cost evaluation. And if you go getting Jordan Davis in the 1st round, you got Marlon Tuipulotu you drafted in the 6th round the year prior. You got Noah Ellis as an undrafted rookie free agent. Like, I mean, come on, man. How many nose tackles do you really need? I get it. But I think that Hassan Ridgeway, when he was in games, was a better football player than most people understand. And there's a reason why San Francisco is pretty excited to sign him.
Let me pick your brain about the guy that's in no man's land, a guy that we don't talk about enough. I mentioned him before, Milton Williams. Now, BG indicated that, he had a pretty solid rookie campaign, all things considered. Now, what can we expect from Milton Williams in year 2? And then we're going to transition to the offensive side of the ball. We dedicated so much time to defense, but rightfully so. I think that is more of a concern than offense. But we're going to transition to offense soon. But I need to get some final thoughts from you guys when it comes to Milton Williams. Steve, you can start.
Really good pass rusher. He's got a very good initial pass rush move. Another athletically gifted guy. I mean, really, really good initial. He's got good speed off the initial snap. I mean, he beats linemen. That's what he does. He's very good at that. I will say that a lot of effort in run support. I mean, he shocked me with how much fight he had in run support, but it ain't there yet. It's not there, man. If they double up on him, I think one-on-one he can hold his own, but when they double to him, he can get washed out of his gap, to be quite honest. I think he's got to work on that a little bit, but Milton Williams is not the biggest guy, so it's not, of course it's going to be based off of effort and not just pure brute strength.
Right. He's 6'3", 290,
He's probably a good 10, 15 pounds under where you really won in that situation. I will say this, though, man. Like, he was a guy that I felt like he's not going to take Jordan Davis' snaps, but I felt like if they would have used him in a tilted front where you could have put him in the zero shade tilted, and then his only job was, Milton, beat the snap. Beat this dude off the snap. I mean, absolutely destroy the running play. It doesn't matter. Find ball, kill ball. Like, that's what we want you to do. I felt like they could have done that, a few times. I felt like they could have given it a shot to see if he could do it. Just because Fletch really didn't want to play the nose. Javon Hargrave could do it. Javon Hargrave had done it in Pittsburgh, but he's way better as a 3 technique. I felt like, hey, I mean, give him a couple reps. I mean, Hassan Ridgeway was really the only guy that seemed to be a real fit there as a nose. And Hassan Ridgeway was a role player. You're looking at 15 to 20 snaps. You don't really want to play on more than that. So, I mean, to me, I felt like they could have done more with Milton Williams, to be honest. But he's a guy that gives you a lot of versatility. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't play him a lot more, especially in this big front. If they start switching and start playing things that might resemble more of a 30 front, a 3-down lineman front, I wouldn't be shocked to see him play some 5 technique, a lot of 5 technique, to be honest. Because he's a different guy when you talk run support. He's a different dude on run support when you're talking a 5 technique as compared to an interior guy. That's a completely different discussion.
To piggyback off that too, with Milton Williams, if we do play that 3-4, I feel like you could bring this dude off the edge standing up too. He's so athletically gifted. It's like, I mean, I like him more coming off the edge anyway. I mean, they tried to play him at D tackle a lot. I really wasn't impressed with him at the D tackle spot, but when they actually slid him out to that end and he could just rush the left tackle, I feel like he did a great job. And he played good in run support out there. So I mean, we got versatile guys on this offense. I mean, Jordan Davis going to be where he at. He's going to be in that middle class.
I think he's the key to the he's the key. Like Jordan Davis, like y'all said, he's going to take up so much space. But go ahead, Trey. My bad.
No, I agree with you. He's going to be the key, but that the key thing is for him is just going to be how much can we play him. You get me? Because he is a big dude. I mean, he's going to be moving 100 miles per hour when he's on the field, but he's going to get tired. So he's going to get tired. You're not going to – and you want him to be healthy for the fourth quarter. I mean, fresh for the fourth quarter. So you're going to have to rotate him a lot. So, I mean, like dudes like Milton Williams, Marlon, if these dudes can hit the field, I feel like they can take up enough space too. I mean, it ain't just going to be Jordan Davis. You still got Fletch Hargraves out there taking up space. So the best, I feel like the way defense is going to attack us is going to have to be on the edge. I mean, it's going to have to be on the edge. And you got Reddick out there. You got Sweat out there. These dudes are going to have to hold it down out there because they're going to try to attack the edge on us. So, I mean, with Milton Williams, getting back to Milton Williams, I feel like this dude, he can be a versatile piece. He can kind of be an X factor up there on that defensive line because you can move him and you could put him on mismatches and stuff like that. And he's so athletically gifted that he could beat those one-on-ones. So, I mean, I can't wait to see how Gannon deploy these dudes. That's what I really want to see. I want to see how he deploy these dudes because we got so much talent on his defense now, and it's all up to the defensive coordinator.
What's up, guys? I see a lot of y'all in the chat. What's going on, guys? I've just noticed in the chat. Hey, Marina. I agree with you. 40 times mean nothing, but keep this in mind. He put a 1-6-3 10-yard split up. Yeah. Put that in a context. That's what Steven Nelson put up.
Hey, shout out to the 76 in here on all the channels. We are on all platforms. We're on Chalk It Up Sports, One Trey Rock, BGN, and BIRDGANG 31 channel. Make sure you go by all of them. Hit a like. Salute to all you guys for being here, man. Much love to you guys.
Sure, y'all are killing it right now.
Well, what I would say on that aspect on both parts, because you guys both said two things that I really like. The Jordan Davis thing is like, another big thing about Jordan Davis, like you said, he is that perfect 3 technique. I mean, right in the middle, nose guard, he's your official nose guard, right? Like you said, Fletch didn't want to play that. Hargrave didn't want to play. Those are pass rushers, defensive tackles. They want to do other things. They don't want to be stuck in the middle getting double teamed by the center and the guard all game. Now you got a guy there, so now they can feel more comfortable and they'll be more productive because they're playing something that they like. So you change the whole narrative for that defensive line by adding a guy like Jordan Davis, And then on Milton Williams, it's like the biggest thing for Milton is he's going into year 2. He was a rookie last year. And we're, the high praise that we're giving him already for his rookie year. First year in the NFL, not even really developed yet, blossoming flower, as they like to say over here in Philly, Next year that he has his scheme down, he's gonna be playing at even a faster level. He's gonna be even stronger. That the sky's the limit for that guy too. Our defensive line, I'm telling you, top 5. I would even say top 3. Like I can't name you. First starting 4, even the backups. That we have coming in. We have 2 starting rotations coming in. 2 starting rotations, and there's not very many teams in the NFL that can say that.
Yeah. With different athletic attributes too, which is the crazy thing about it. I mean, like I was saying earlier in an underfront, if you're trying to get that 3 technique and you want that 3 technique to win, and you're trying to keep that will linebacker, free so he can scrape along the line. Milton Williams is another dude that hey, Milton, listen, whatever you do, you've got to keep this guy from getting up on this will linebacker. You got to win this matchup. There's a lot of dudes on this defensive line that can do that. They can play those type of roles. We talked about, I know One Tree Rock was talking about the fact that he makes an excellent, player that you can use as a 5 technique, both in a 30 front and a 40 front. I mean, if you're talking about, concepts that you can use in terms of like bringing down, running 50 fronts basically, where you're bringing that Sam linebacker down onto the line of scrimmage, Hassan Riddick. That 5 technique needs to be comfortable having somebody play outside of him. There's 2 dudes I can think of on this roster that I know for a fact would be comfortable. That's Brandon Graham. That's Milton Williams. I know those 2 guys would be comfortable doing that. I don't think it would phase either one of them. And that's, just there's so much versatility on this defense right now.
I love that, man. I love that. Now, we done covered the whole 9 yards with the defense, right? Let's transition to the offensive side of the ball, because that is where the electricity is going to happen, right? So I gotta ask you guys this. I know the obvious conversation is Jalen Hurts, but let's kind of do what we did before. Let's kind of work from the inside out. Offensive line. Now, we had the best offensive line in football last year, if you ask me, especially in run blocking. Couldn't really do much about that. And then on top of that, we didn't give up that many sacks the previous season to give up that many sacks as well. Also, Jalen Hurts' athleticism helped with that, but we didn't give up that many sacks, and that's just the reality. So the way this offensive line is constructed and the way they've added to it, what's you guys' expectation? What do you guys anticipate for this offensive line going into the 2022 season? Steve, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Expectations for the offensive line in 2022, basically, or for the entire offensive group?
Offensive line right now. Offensive line.
I think they got to clean up some stuff in pass protection. To be honest, I think they're very good. I think they're very good in run protection. Run blocking, but their pass pro, I felt like they're a little suspect at times. To be honest, I think Jalen Hurts bails them out of a little bit. To be quite honest, as much as we give flack for Jalen Hurts for leaving the pocket when it's not necessary, there's also times where he's clearly bailing out the offensive line when they've given up. They've lost leverage. With that said, I feel pretty confident about it, man. Jordan Mailata is only going to get better. He's talk about another massive human being. You know what I mean? Talk about another young guy who didn't have a lot of experience playing football that's just athletically gifted. There's another dude, he's just going to get better. Landon Dickerson. That left side that's crazy. I just don't know what's going to happen at right guard. I don't know. I can't. That's the position I can't really. I feel like Isaac Seumalo is likely going to be the guy that they'll look to first, just because if he's on the roster and he's earning
paying him and that money, yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't see how you put that. I don't see how you put him on the bench. The thing is that maybe I'm wrong, guys, and tell me if you disagree. Because I think it's definitely debatable, but I feel like what I saw from Landon Dickerson last year was better than what I've seen out of Seumalo in the past few years. And I know Seumalo's been injured a lot, and maybe that's clouding my judgment a little bit.
That's facts.
But I thought you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
But it's more toward the fact that he's a different type of guard. You know what I'm saying? Like Landon's bigger than Seumalo, like way bigger. Seumalo used more of his athleticism and his, being smaller, more shiftier to help make him a decent, guard. Like no shade on him at all. He won the Super Bowl for us. He was a starting guard at Super Bowl. But
I think where Seumalo hasn't beat. Sorry, BG, real quick, and then I'll let you rock. I think where Seumalo may have him slightly beat is pass pro. I think that's where Seumalo may be more technically sound than Landon, because Landon, he struggled a bit in pass pro. Run blocking, that's his bread and butter. He gets the maul guys. But when he has to shuffle those feet and go back, he kind of struggled a bit. But BG, you can finish off.
I feel like that's more because he's just a rookie.
Okay.
As opposed to anything else, you know what I'm saying? You're looking at a guy that's, how long has Seumalo been here? Like 5 years? That's what it's been.
He's been for a while, yeah.
Yeah, 5, 6 years. So you're looking at that aspect of it. It's like, yeah, Landon was a rookie last year. The more years Landon get on, that's how much more better. Like Seumalo, we knew his ceiling was just a good guard. Landon's ceiling is all pro guard for years to come. They're locking down this side if they continue at the pace they're doing for years, and they're both going to be in the Pro Bowl. They're both going to be all pros, for a while if they continue to go at the pace they are. With the Seumalo thing, I was big on like having Seumalo start at right guard. Because why not? He's the next best experienced guy. I think he'll be better than Driscoll starting out. But now that we drafted this other center in the second round, Jurgensen. You know what I'm saying? Like, can he actually beat Sayamalu out? You know, like Landon Dickerson. You know, this guy's supposed to be really talented too. You know, like we talk so much about the defensive guys we got in the draft. We rarely talk about, you know, this second round pick that was a stud, you know, at center in college.
That's the only problem. He's small. I think he'd be better at center. Because he's not a big dude. So he's going to be getting punished up there. So, but go ahead, DJ.
How big is he? You guys know? How big is Jurgensen?
Come on, Jurgens? Or
Jurgens is...
It's like 310-ish, right? Somewhere in that area, I think.
That's big enough. As long as you're over 300 pounds, my guy.
Sayamalu's not the biggest guy either, but
6'3",
Sayamalu does
290. 6'3",
yeah,
290.
That's light.
And how much was Sayamalu?
Probably about 305, 310-ish, I think.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. Let me make sure I got his weight right.
Kelsey played center. That's what I was saying. That guard position.
Okay, I take that back. I apologize. Cam Jurgens is actually, he's actually 6'3", 303 pounds.
Yeah, it's about 305. Yeah, so he's pretty close to what Sayamalu would be. Then I'm going to guess that Sayamalu probably came out of the draft around the same exact size. I think Sayamalu's I would imagine over the years he probably plays around 315 or so. I'd imagine. Normally, you want your guards to be about 320 plus. I mean, it's not what you're looking. But some dudes don't.
Sayamalu's 303.
Sayamalu
303.
Yeah,
303. That's what I'm right here.
I think he has been hurt though. For real.
Yeah. Well, if you remember back in 2019 when Sayamalu was playing a bunch, there was a game against Seattle where he got through. I'm not gonna lie, man. I can't remember if it was Puna Ford. It was one of those dudes threw him. Like it was bad. You could see his feet lift off the air. I was like, oh boy, that's not. I wouldn't want to be in the film room on Monday. That's not going to look good.
I seen that happen to Jason Peters one day, and that's when I knew he was done. I saw Jason Peters get lifted off his feet in that Giants matchup.
Yeah,
I think it was a Thursday night football game, and it was maybe a couple years ago, like his last season with us, I think.
Yeah.
And when I saw him get lifted off his feet, I was like, oh yeah, it's about time. It's about that time.
Yeah.
Now,
the offensive line is tricky because you got guys like even what's his name, Lane Johnson, right tackle. Like I was having a conversation with Jalen Williams. He's a guy I play collegiately on the offensive line. He said something to me that I never thought about before, which is he was talking about natural big dudes versus workout warriors, dudes that have to bulk up to get to the size to play. And he said, truth be told, Lane Johnson is not a guy that body naturally wants to carry 320 pounds.
Yeah.
He's a little thinner than that. He's a little leaner than that in reality. He has to fight to keep that weight up. And I was like, never really thought about that before. You never really think that these, I always just thought these were the big dudes and, that but he's like, no, think about all the powerlifting and all the stuff that he does. Like he's got to do a lot to stay at that weight.
I never thought about that before. I mean, I know he was originally a quarterback and then he transitioned to tight end, then he became an offensive lineman, but I never thought about the whole concept of having to fight to keep weight on. Normally, guys fight to keep weight off, but he has to fight to keep it on. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I never did either. Like I said, I was never really an offensive line guy, but the only thing I knew is I knew when a guy lost leverage because I was about to get hit. So
right? Yeah, don't do that again.
Yeah.
That is hilarious, man.
No,
but
with me though.
Go ahead. Trevor, my bad.
No, with me though, I feel like you gotta leave Mailata and Dickerson right there at that left side, man. They look good. I mean, it could potentially be the how our right side used to be with Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks. They could be good for years to come. I mean, the really only thing we lacking at right now is right guard, and I can't even say we lacking. It's like we just got to find a dude to put there. I mean, because if Ali Sayamalu is your weakest right guard, I mean your weakest guy on that line, you got a solid offensive line. I'm not even gonna lie. So, I mean, it's gonna probably be a little bit harder to play power football. From last year we was. But I mean, the dude, he fits right in with this offensive line. So, I mean, I feel like we not gonna really be lacking too much at the right guard position if we plug Sam Marlowe right there. If he could stay healthy. And then we have the other guy that we just brought in. I mean, I know Stoutland could get him up the par, and if anything was to happen, he could play right there too. So I feel like we straight at the offensive line. And when y'all talk about pass pro protection and stuff like that, I feel like a lot of the times that was Jalen Hurts for real, because they don't really know what this dude gonna be at. He's one read and then he runs out the pocket. It's like it was a lot of times I seen last year where he had tons of time and he ran for no reason. So it was like, I mean, you gotta help your offensive line out too. I mean, you help them out if you about to get sacked, but you got to stay in there and throw that football too if they protect them for you. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword for real. Jalen got to get better with that, and our offensive line got to get a little bit better with pass protection.
Yeah, I think early in the season it was a clear example of where Jalen just footwork was bad, to be quite honest. Jalen and Caleb were kind of talking early in the year, last season. They were talking about Gate, you're a quarterback. Like, what's the depth? Like, is his drop depth correct? I'm like, probably not. Probably not. Not judging from the routes he's throwing, it doesn't seem like you should be near a 5-step drop for something that's not over 20 yards. To be quite honest, like a 5-step drop is a pretty deep drop. I mean, to be real with you, a 3-step drop out of the shotgun is a really deep drop. There was definitely some things like that going on where his footwork wasn't quite right. But I thought he cleaned a lot of that stuff up as the season kind of went on. By the Denver game, I started really noticing he got the concept of how to climb and slide the pocket. He was starting to really get how to climb pockets, how to climb the ladder, as they say. And right. that's a really good thing for him, because that's going to show that you're getting past that first read. And some of it I think was concept based too. I think that they built in these very, very designed plays for him. And, as you said, it's a double-edged sword, right? They do that because they think that's what you can do, and they don't necessarily trust you to take control of the full grasp yet. But at the same time, it's holding you back too. It's this weird balance thing you have to do. And I'll ask you guys right now, what do you expect them to do offensively? Do you think that they're going to say, like, look, we've got to find out if this is the guy or not, so we're going to give this young man full autonomy over the offense? Like, this is going to be
so glad you went there. Yo, Steve, you are literally a mind reader right now. Literally, I was about to ask the exact same question to you guys. Knowing what we know about the coaching staff and what they did for him from a scheme perspective and drawing things up that fits his skill set. You're Steve. That's why you're my man. So, my personal opinion, I think I'm gonna be honest with you. They taking the baby bib off early. They taking the turnovers off early, like they did last season. They're gonna throw the whole playbook at his head, and if you can't do it by week 6, like I said, they're gonna test them early. I don't think they're gonna try to ease their way into this schedule. You start the season off against the Detroit Lions, arguably the worst team that you're gonna play. This will be the perfect game for you to go and try to air it out and test your gangster. We need to find out where you are, Jalen Hurts. And it's going to be so important for him to be able to dice up Detroit. If you can't dice up Detroit, we might have some issues.
I don't know. Detroit's better than they were last year.
But did they add to that? But did they add?
At the beginning of the season. Right.
No, I was just about to say that, but did they add to the DB room?
I think that's more of a Nick thing than a Hurts thing. Like, for real with Hurts, I really feel like what they did, like you said in the beginning of the season, like that was too much for them, period. That was a little too much. You don't pass that many times.
But BG,
this year, I think he's ready for it, and I think he's going to – that's what
and that's what we got to find out, right? Because you can't – like, this is the season where it's sink or swim for this young man. And I want him to win. It's a lot of Eagles fans that actually don't want this young man to succeed, and it's very strange to me because if you don't want him to succeed – then you can't be an Eagles fan, because if he succeeds, that puts us, and it's Chris Sims, Philly D, by the way. Chris Sims, Phil Sims is dad. If you don't want this young man to succeed, you can't be an Eagles fan, because if he does succeed, that puts us in a much better fiscal position. It puts us in a better position in terms of allocating assets and not having to dedicate it to the quarterback position. We should want him to succeed like we want water. We
Right.
need, like he has to succeed. And I'm telling you, Nick Sirianni is not going to hold back. He's not. Nick Sirianni, there's a lot of things Nick Sirianni wanted to do last year that he could not do. And he was itching to do it because there were games where he started to regress back to his old ways. And we kept and he was trying. He'll start the first quarter trying to throw the ball. Jalen's still struggling a little bit. He's like, all right, I guess I got to go back to the run. And then we'll start games off late or we'll start games off slow, rather. That was a problem for us, starting games off slow.
Those are weapons, too. It wasn't just Jalen. It was our weapons too, our young weapons, our young receivers. Devontae Smith was rookie. Quez was still a first-year player. So it wasn't just Jalen in that aspect in terms of like
Quez was a second-year player.
You had two young players trying to be pros at the same time, I feel like.
BG, I love you to death, but we can't keep trying to take the pressure off of him. The pressure's on him.
Mm-hmm.
If it don't work, he not gonna be here. Those receivers still gonna be here. You dig what I'm saying? So I get what you're saying. Everybody got to do their job, but he got to throw that pill. He had this is it. I love him. I want him to win, but
that's why you can't say it because he did throw that pill. Like I said, if we added all those mistakes, those drops, the mistakes, and those yardage up and those touchdowns up, we wouldn't be sitting here even questioning the fact that this guy should be our starting quarterback or not. That's the biggest thing. And I know shoulda, woulda, coulda doesn't work, so you can't say something about it. But in reality, he made those throws on those plays that were not capitalized on. So at the same time, you can't penalize the guy for making a play that didn't happen. At the same time, like you do expect more, and I do agree that he needs to come back harder and better this year. But I'm saying you really can't penalize because on those plays, the play was made from Jalen Hurts. Once the ball leaves his hand, the rest of the play is whoever he's throwing the ball to or whatnot.
Now, what do you say about
Jalen can't get it there, and Jalen has like 6 touchdowns that he could have had extra on his thing, where he has 21 touchdowns now, 10 touchdowns rushing. You know what I'm saying? The stats go up. He has 4,000 yards instead of 3,100 yards. Like that's a huge, big difference.
You're right. No, you're right.
It's like that's why I think I am such a homer. You guys call me in terms of Jalen Hurts. Dude made the plays too. Like I hate hearing the fact that dude can't throw. Because like
we can't ignore there's flaws in his game. In terms of
game.
No.
Even Tom Brady.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do
I
that,
am
BG. I love you, BG. I love you, bro. Don't do that.
Like a big thing that the people don't even realize is last year was the lowest scoring points per team in the whole NFL.
Who?
Like last year, we went down in terms of the whole league didn't score that many points per game as they normally do.
Wait.
The whole league didn't score. If you notice the first 6 weeks, all the elite quarterbacks were not having high stats. Like all the elite quarterbacks. Like, that was the worst start.
Okay.
Huh?
He was asking
that was like one of the worst starts of the league in terms of quarterback play in general ever. Like last year.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. I was trying to
like you said.
No, my bad. Go ahead.
Everybody wanted him to succeed, but there's a lot of stuff that we saw last year that he got to improve on, man. He's like, we could try to blame rookie or, people that didn't start, but at the end of the day, it was a lot of throws he missed too, bro.
Yeah, like, you're right. Like Trey Rock, you're right. Like, bro, he over 60% of his throws was outside the hash. He couldn't throw in the middle. That's a problem.
He ain't want no smoke in the middle. You're gonna have to get better at that because you got one of the best tight ends in the NFL, and he's gonna do all his work across the middle. So, you're gonna have to learn to throw the football across the middle. You're gonna have to learn to throw with anticipation. You're gonna have to stop being scared to let the football go because if B-dude's open, the concepts don't be bad, don't be that horrible as we think it is. The quarterback just he waits. He don't trust the throw. He runs out the pocket for no reason sometimes. And he cuts the field off. So these are the flaws that Jalen Hurts had coming into the NFL. So we can't sit here and say, "Oh no, he had these flaws before he got here." And
you also heard the coach
improved on them, but he really didn't.
You guys don't understand the progressions of these plays that I'm calling. He's the coach. He's calling the plays. He told you guys you need to back up off Jalen because some of the progressions the way it was. We had linemen hurt early. We had a lot of young linemen playing, meaning he didn't have all the best things. If I go into a season with starting lineup, and my second week, my starting left guard's going now, my right tackle's going now for games, I'm not 100% sure what this guy's going to even do. So, of course, I'm going to be more antsy to run the ball. Of course, I'm going to be more antsy to get out there. If I feel like any play, there's a lot of pressure coming in on it. That's how I feel like. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are, like, built-in, like, I'm not making, like I said, first-year player, I think he had a great year, his first year playing, But is there mistakes? Of course. But I'm just saying, like, every quarterback still has mistakes. Patty Mahomes
actually, real quick to that point, where actually he didn't make many mistakes. The mistakes wasn't the issue; it was his flaws in his game. It wasn't mistakes per se.
But that's what I mean,
because he didn't turn the ball over that much. He only threw 10 picks, and 3 of them came against the Giants, which should have never happened. But Steve, we've been going back and forth. I want to get your perspective on this Jalen Hurts situation. Maybe you can be the great equalizer.
I think there's a few things going on here. Number one, I think that they need to expand the offense for him. I think they need to give him the autonomy at the line of scrimmage. I think he needs to sink or swim on his own. I think you have to find out. And there's only one way of doing it, is to giving him the autonomy to make decisions. I will say that having A.J. Brown will definitely help, because I think some of the issue is outside of Dallas Goedert, you don't have a lot of guys that can work the middle of the field. I think having A.J. Brown, who can definitely run in breaking routes, is going to make life a little easier, who can beat man coverage and get in, run those in breaking routes on top of it. I think it's going to help them tremendously. But there is a part of his game, I'm not going to lie, it's got to be improved upon, which is, you heard Andy Reid talk about it when he was trying to justify Alex Smith back in the day with Kansas City. And he was saying, like, look, getting the offense into rhythm is the quarterback's responsibility.
Right.
And that's where Jalen has to be better. That's where people are talking about the hesitation on the reads and things like that. And Jalen knows that. That's why he went out there to go work with Tom House. That's why he's out there working with Tom Brady. That's why you heard, I had a young man come on my channel who's worked with Tom House in 3D QB. He came on, Justin Arth, a young quarterback out there trying to get a contract with the CFL right now. He said, look, one of the things that they do and the greats do, like Tom Brady and like Drew Brees and those guys, is they play the actual playbook in their head the night before the game. So they run through all the game time situations, all the game time scenarios, the route combinations, all those things, and what can happen. And they run through each of the reads and how they would do it. So that way, when they're in the game, there's not that hesitation. And, Jalen talked a lot about the mental side of the game. He kept saying things like holistic approach, and he was talking about regiments and schedules and all these things about really kind of getting himself together. And I think that's partially, I don't think that's what he was directly speaking to, but I think that's an aspect of it, of getting yourself mentally prepared for the game, making sure when you see these coverages, when you see these things, you're not hesitating because you've seen it, it. And I think just simply put, being the second time around, your second year, full season as a starter is going to help tremendously, because I don't think that he'll be as fooled by coverages. I don't think that he'll be as off put by leverage from corners. And I think that was the bigger problem is there were times to where I think he read it right. He just didn't trust the leverage. And it was like, no, Jalen, you got to let that rip, man. Get the ball out of your hands. Man. Trust your dude to make the play. Trust your guy to make the play. And I think he's going to do that, man. I think having A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith helps too, because they're going to come back and be like, yo, Jalen, when he does this again, I'm
Good
going
point. Great point. Great point. Those wide receivers, having those guys. Because look, Devontae came into the league ready-made. Thank God Harry Roseman didn't have to develop him, because he came into the league ready-made. Then A.J. Brown, Harry Roseman recognized the flaw in his game. I'm not good at drafting this position. You know what? I'm going to draft a guy who's just entering his prime, coming off a rookie deal. I'll pay him. Why not? And he fits our offense perfectly. A big body wide receiver that knows how to operate and who knows how to operate with limited targets. Even though we're going to try to get him targets, but he knows how to operate in a run style offense with limited targets. You're right, Gate City. They're going to come back to him and say, look, this is what I need from you. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to make him do. This is what I want you to do next, okay? He needs those guys, that veteran leadership, those guys that understand the wide receiver position, understand leverage, understand that, hey, trust me, I got you. Just let it rip.
And the fact that it's his best friend. You know what I'm saying? That's a huge part. Like, I heard someone say Like a lot of those drops aren't going to be dropped no more just because that's his boy. You know what I'm saying? That connection you have with your boy, you know what I'm saying? You can go out there, you can look even like Dan Marino or like Montana or something. You're out there playing with your friend, you know what I'm saying? You got throwing the ball together, playing pitch and catch. You know, they surround
Right.
this guy with familiar faces. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Said that no one knows just how big of a jump Jalen can even make right now. Going, like I
Right.
said, that's a huge thing. Like I've been saying over and over again, that's a huge thing that people need to really realize. Him being able to get into the second year of the same offense, that's a huge thing.
It is
And
huge.
But I
First
another
time.
also,
huge thing
I also,
is
I also believe that some guys. I mean, and I'm not saying this Jalen, but I also believe some guys just gonna be who they are. I mean, you look at Colin Kaepernick. He was a great athlete. He wasn't a great quarterback. You get me? He wasn't a great quarterback. He made plays because he sucked defenses in sometimes, and big plays opened up. But the way Tampa Bay played us in the playoffs, it kind of scared me because now it's like more of a blueprint type thing. You box this dude and make him throw the football. He's gonna have to get better as a passer. Like we all agree on that. He's gonna have to get way better as a passer. I mean, and I'm not even talking arm strength and stuff like that because there's a lot of great quarterbacks that played in the NFL that didn't have tremendous arm strength. It was just timing and anticipation. And like I said, seeing coverages and knowing what's going to be open, taking the check down when it's there. I mean, he just got to get better as a decision maker for real. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
everything not going to be there for 7 seconds. And I mean, dudes running around playing backyard football. You're going to actually have to play quarterback. And I mean, I feel like he can do it, but I watched him since high school and he really been the same quarterback since high school. It's hard to get out of some habits. I mean, it's hard
I
to
don't know.
break
I
some
think you
habits. And
see Jalen Hurts. You've seen him do it, get better and better since he's been, and even in college. I can't say I watched him since high school, but if you look at the college game, right, the whole reason why Nick Saban sat him that year, you know, in that championship game, because Tua had a better arm. You know what I'm saying? That was it. You know, he knew that this was not the game he can play if he wants to win the championship. You know, with the run option type quarterback, you know, the dual threat quarterback, he put the guaranteed arm in there. Tua, but you watch him come back the
That's
next year.
actually debatable now.
Well, hold on.
You know,
When
because
Jalen
Tua
came back
struggles.
in the next year, he won the game with 2-0 now. But then he went to Oklahoma, a whole nother offense that he threw for over 4,000 yards. He ran for 1,000 yards. You know what I'm saying? Like first quarterback ever. He was breaking records like crazy, better than any other Oklahoma quarterback, and that's a big school. So then you've seen him develop. Even the first year, from the first year, the first 4 games to last year, he developed as a passer. You know, even if you watched all of last season, if you didn't see from game 1 to game 17 or 16, 17, whatever, that he
You're right.
got,
I got you.
you know what I'm saying, that he was a better quarterback, towards those end games, he stood in that pocket. He just used his athleticism to run around the pocket to create more time for his receivers. You know,
But
we
BG,
all gripe on him for
I
doing it
think what
early, but that's just normal stuff I think that rookies do. Like I said, this guy is 6th all-time ever in terms of production for quarterbacks. 6th all-time ever, they said, in terms of production for quarterbacks in their first year starting. Like, how can you even like debate any of that? Like, how can you even be critical, really that critical? I know you want to be critical as fans. We're gonna be critical, but like to be, if you take it to perspective, the NFL had thousands of quarterbacks. This guy's 6th all-time in terms of production from the position his first year start.
I get it. I get it. You know, I think what Trey Rock is talking about really is not really the fact that he hasn't improved, but more so those habits. He has habits that he needs to break. And I think that's the hardest thing
Mm-hmm.
when you know playing a quarterback position, you have to be a creature of habit. And the last thing you want to do is develop bad ones. And I think Jalen Hurts is at that point now where he's trying to unravel the bad habits and start to pick up new ones. And I think that's where working with Tom House and Tom Brady comes in. What's
I
your
just
thoughts,
think people
KC?
just expect him to be a perfect quarterback, and there's not one out there. There's not. You
And
can
so
But
you
we
can critique
don't
every single
expect him to
quarterback
be
in the NFL right
perfect
now.
though.
Every single one. Tom Brady, the GOAT. You can critique him right now. I watched a lot of Tom Brady games last year where he sucked. And everybody talk about this deep ball stuff. Tom Brady barely ever throws past 10 yards.
Mhm.
that's not
Ever.
his style. That's not his style. That's not his style. But Steve,
Nice
I need to
that,
know.
but he's the
I need
GOAT.
you.
Like, how can you get mad for Jalen? Oh, you don't have very many deep balls going out there. And then you look at the GOAT, it's called this dude the GOAT, and that all his passes are 10 yards. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like, to me, it's like, I don't get it.
Well, I mean, Tom Brady has afforded that. Tom Brady has afforded that luxury for one, and for two, Tom Brady became a mentalist of the game, and that's where Jalen Hurts needs to come in. Jalen Hurts is never going to be the most talented quarterback on the field, never. But what needs to happen is he needs to become a mentalist of the game. What's your thoughts on that, Steve?
I think it's complicated when you look past his history for a couple of reasons. Number one, his high school team was they were not good. Like Jalen definitely held them up. He kept them afloat. They were pretty bad. And I think that can create habits, right? Mm-hmm. When you have to run for your life, you're going to run for your life if you have the athletic ability. I will say, when you get to Alabama, you've made this career that's based upon your athleticism. You have a decent arm. You definitely have an arm that looks like it's NFL ready. That he gets to Alabama, and I had someone say something to me that was something I never thought about, which is I was talking to Max Brown, former USC quarterback, transferred out to Pitt, finished off his career there. Max had said, he was offered by Alabama. He was offered, by Nick Saban outside of his art class. And I was like, dude, how do you turn that down? And he's like, you got to remember, man, back in the day, Alabama was not a quarterback school. Like Jalen kind of changed. Yeah, like Jalen kind of changed that image. Jalen was really the first. It was Jalen, and then from Jalen came Tua. From Tua came Mac. From Mac came Bryce. Before that, they had that was that dude's name, the white dude, McKinney or whatever. Played like the 20.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. That's a very good point.
AJ
McCarron, yeah, AJ McCarron, yeah. Yeah, before that was it. That was pretty much it.
They had AJ McCarron, McElroy. They had all those dudes. They was never going to do nothing in the NFL. So
I never thought about that, Gates. That's a very good point.
Yeah. Jalen was really the first one to kind of break that mold. And because I was asking Max, I'm like, yo, that would have been tempting for me. I would have had a hard time turning that down personally. He's like, not for me. He's like, at that time, USC was the school. So he's like, I want to go to USC. That's Carson Palmer. That's look at the amount of dudes they put in the league. I'm like, all right, I get it. Carson Palmer is the most technically sound quarterback that didn't win anything, by the way, but still. But
unfortunate.
I'm taking a shot. I'm just messing with him.
Carson Palmer, Matt Barkley, all those dudes.
Yeah.
Matt Leinart.
Exactly. But the funny thing is like when you looked at that, it's like, okay, like I kind of get what he's saying, and then like you talk about Oklahoma, and that's a tough one. That's a really tough one because I have watched. So what was his name? What's his name? The head coach there that left and went to USC.
Is it Lincoln Riley?
Yeah. When I watched Lincoln Riley turn quarterbacks at ECU into something, but I don't know that he developed them.
Exactly.
I don't know if he developed them. I think
it's just his offense, bro. His offense is just quarterback friendly. Like his offense. Mind you, they had 3 straight Heisman Trophy winners. So, I mean, it's the offense, and that's what I was trying to. I apologize for interrupting you, but that's what I was trying to tell dude. Even the conference that Oklahoma is in, they play zero defense. Like those scores be like 65 to 50 every game. So, I mean, it's really, and he only really threw to one guy for real the whole season. I mean, CeeDee Lamb. It was CeeDee Lamb or bust. CeeDee Lamb or you got to playing backyard.
No, I hate when people say that. CeeDee Lamb had like 1,000 yards that year. He didn't have 2,000 yards. He had 3,000 yards. He spread that ball around. He had over 4,000 yards passing. So all that, every time someone bring up the whole CeeDee Lamb down, everybody has a star receiver. Yes, CeeDee Lamb was a star receiver, but he had over 4,000 yards passing. My God, like that's not an excuse of saying like, oh well, he had CeeDee Lamb. That's the reason why he didn't. No, who cares about that? He was still working the field. He was still getting the ball out to everybody. He was still doing his thing.
But that's my concern is that when you look through, I'm not too sure Nick Saban is a developer of quarterbacks. To be fair, I'm not too sure that Lincoln Riley is a developer of quarterbacks. Great scheme, very quarterback friendly. He's had 3 dudes now. If you count what we got here, I mean, with Jalen Hurts, I know you can split the responsibility there, but he's got 3 dudes that have a lot of talent, but all of them are a little fundamentally flawed. To be fair. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, they all have little fundamental things that need to be cleaned up.
Same thing for Saban and his quarterbacks, Tua, Mac, You know,
Yeah.
Jalen, they're talented, but they're not technically sound fully. There's flaws to their game.
Yeah. Mac's probably the more technically put
Right.
together, but the less probably the
least talented, but most technically.
Yeah. I don't think he has that elite
Yeah.
level, but I think he's definitely the guy that you could plug in and play. As I look at that, I'm like, I don't really know what to make of how much he's been coached up. And, you know, I don't know how much of it can be fixed, how fast it can be fixed, and how patient the city can be. I think that's the issue, is that it does take patience for young quarterbacks to get it together like this.
Gates, catch your question real quick. Gates, catch your question real quick.
Question after you.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is it fair to say Nick Sirianni may be the only coach, or maybe the first coach to really coach him up at the quarterback position? Because, you know, we've seen games Nick Sirianni say, yo, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that Washington game, I think he fumbled or he threw an interception in the red zone, whatever it was. Nick Sirianni ripped him on the sideline. And from that point forward, Hurts turned into a different quarterback. Is it fair to say that he's starting to get that coaching he needs in NFL with Nick Sirianni versus what he got in college, which was a very quarterback-friendly situation where he was coddled?
Yeah, I think Brian Johnson probably deserves some credit in that too. I mean,
Brian Johnson. Shout out to Brian Johnson as well.
Yeah, Brian Johnson, really good quarterback developer. Shane Steichen, I think. See, here's the thing I'm disappointed with Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen put together a very friendly system for Herbert. If anything, we would probably criticize it as being too passive. It was a little too passive towards the run. Just a little too much running. It was, you know, like obvious passing down situations where you should be letting Herbert spin the football and you're running the ball. And I know Charger fans got really frustrated with Steichen for that. But he kind of went the opposite way early on with Nick Sirianni, and maybe it was Kevin Patullo, to be fair. It could have been Patullo does design the passing game, so that might be really more so Patullo's area. But, I didn't love the approach early on. It just felt like basically if you're going to do that, why not just get Lincoln Riley on the phone and say, hey, what were the concepts you ran with Jalen that were successful? Like, you might as well have just done that. Like, it felt like you should have been implementing a little bit more pro-style offense and try to bring this young man along. And I know they wanted that initial success. That's what they were shooting for. They wanted that initial success. I think they looked at the landscape of that schedule and said, we got to get this young man comfortable, and we got to get him comfortable quick. And that's the disadvantage of having a front-loaded schedule like that, you know, where you got these elite quarterbacks and everything going on that you know can put up big points on you and put you behind fast. I like Jalen Hurts, man. I think he's a worker. The one thing I will say about Jalen is that he's got an uphill battle. There's no doubt about it. But, man, I'm not going to question this young man's work ethic.
Right.
He's got a tremendous work ethic. It's just a matter of, okay, what exactly is going on? How fast can we make these fixes? And we're talking about habits. You know the saying, it takes 10,000 hours to build a habit.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And yeah, I want to ask you something too. Like, how much of you think it is just in terms of like the ceiling for Jalen Hurts, depending on Nick Sirianni in general? Because we've seen Drew Brees. You know, a lot of people like throw that out there. You know, the Drew Brees thing in San Diego, as opposed to Drew Brees inside the Saints. You know what I'm saying? Like, Sean Payton schemed up Drew Brees. You know what I'm saying? Like, to make it easier for him to look as good as he did, because they said he didn't have the strongest arm. He was a small quarterback. You know what I'm saying? They had all these narratives coming out of San Diego. But you see, he's became one of the greatest quarterback throwers of the ball, you know, more off of the schemes that Peyton was able to scheme up for him.
Yeah, scheme's very important for the quarterback. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you know, a lot of the dirty secret with Drew Brees is that he basically, for the majority of his career, was a half-field reader. Like, now don't get me wrong. You know, he still had the ability to step to the line of scrimmage, and he would have half-field reads to both sides of the field, and he would choose, depending upon the defense, where he was going to read post-snap. But nonetheless, I mean, half-field reads are designed to get the ball out of your hands quickly. You know, it's meant for you to be able to make those executive decisions in a very fast manner. We saw they try to do that with Carson Wentz, by the way. I don't know if you guys remember, that was Dougie P. But Dougie P tried to speed up Carson Wentz by having him half-field read. And that didn't work. So to some extent, it is dependent upon the player. You know, the player's got to be willing to do that. You know, Carson wanted to roll the pocket, move the pocket, and be an athlete. You know, Drew was more so like, hey, look, Let's find the matchup. Let's get the ball in my hands fast and let's make something happen. I mean, I don't know what style Jalen's going to play to. I don't know how much RPOs are going to keep implementing. I do think it's going to be part of the game just because the RPOs help you set up Jalen Hurts to be an effective contributor to the running game. And I know a lot of people don't like that. And I know that you expose a quarterback to injury. There's no doubt about it. Anytime that you're taking a hit, you're exposing yourself to injury. What's the famous line, like, when they talk about risk and risk assessment, like, you put a pool in your backyard and you immediately increase your risk of drowning. Like, of course, the more you set yourself up to be hit, the more likely you're going to expose yourself to injury. What I will say is this, though. We have seen a quarterback with 100 attempts and 800 rushing yards win a Super Bowl. It's just a matter of, can you build similar concepts? Can you build defensive, prowess to help hold you there to be able to capitalize on that style of offense? Because Russell Wilson had over 100 rushing attempts and 800 yards the year he won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. That's a running quarterback, gentlemen. I'm sorry. I hear that debate a lot. A running quarterback is absolutely
right.
That's a good point.
And even to jump on that point, the fact that you did it in your rookie contract. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to take advantage. People worry about, Jalen Hurts. Oh, if he keeps running, he might get broken down. This dude is like one of the strongest quarterbacks you've seen. You don't see quarterbacks hanging out with the linemen, working out all the time. This dude's strong. He's young. He's athletic. Use him. That word, I know as fans, we kind of like, oh, well, we look long term in terms of like, well, he's not going to last long for this. Who cares if we can get 2 Super Bowls in the next 3 years because this guy can use his legs and his arm together? Then you need to go try to do everything you can to get that out of him.
To throw more gasoline on that fire, guys. And One Tree Rock, I'll ask you you can address it. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Since they devolved power to Russell Wilson, and I know it's complicated because there's been tension about fully devolving that power, but what has Russell Wilson won since they went away from that style?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's a very good point, man.
It's a good point. I mean, but we could swing that a lot of ways because what has Aaron Rodgers won since they gave him power? But I mean, that's just the nature of the NFL. Is like you got to take stuff away to give. I mean, the game. I guess. Oh, you want a quarterback, you're gonna have to take stuff away from him. It's like they just gave Dak. I mean, perfect example. They just gave Dak a ton of money, and they lost Amari Cooper. That's the NFL. That's the nature of the beast. So, I mean, but even with Russell Wilson, like he did a lot of running at the beginning, but we rarely saw Russell Wilson get hit hard. When he really started and he had to run, when that O-line got real bad, that's when you saw him get beat up. So I feel like right now, we don't have to run Jalen as many times as we running him. Because that is putting
smartest runners.
And he does he do take a lot of big hits too, BJ.
Not a lot. We
I
can think of a couple of
big
hits, but in the most part, how many times did we say, wow, Jalen knows how to slide? Carson Wentz never did that for years. How many times did we say that this year? Jalen Hurts knows how to slide. Carson Wentz never did. Wow, Carson would have got blown up right there because he doesn't know how to slide. You know what I'm saying? Like, Jalen, how many times did Jalen run out of bounds, do his little throwaway? Like, I feel like Jalen's way more of a smarter quarterback than people give him credit to be, like, in terms of the run game. Like, he took
a lot of hits that when he was on the ground, I was like, ooh, he ain't getting up from that one. Man, it's scary, bro. The game's so fast. It's like, it's fast. So, I mean, like, if we could avoid running this dude 10, 15 times a game, I would. I mean, that's the whole reason of bringing an A.J. Brown over. So you don't have to get hit that much no more. I mean, he could get the ball out of his hands fast. Devontae Smith is a good route runner. I mean, he could get the ball out of his hands fast. So, I mean, if we could avoid running this dude, especially like a lot of design runs, I'm all for it. I want to see him be a quarterback, to be honest. I want to see you sit back, find a mismatch, hit him. I mean, we moving up the field that way. I don't want to see you running all over the place. I mean, because
do you think you're asking too much from him?
No, listen, real quick.
We changed Donovan McNabb. That's when Donovan McNabb started sucking.
No, we didn't change Donovan McNabb. He wanted to change. We didn't change.
Wanted to change.
No. Yeah. When everybody said that McNabb couldn't throw, that's when McNabb said, like, I am a pocket quarterback too. You know, and he decided to change himself, yes. But I'm saying it was from the critics telling him that he was not a pocket quarterback, that he was calling him a running quarterback is the reason why he changed his narrative.
Now,
You know?
here's the thing, right? Here's
And
the
when
real
he
quick.
did that, I think Dominic game started to go down on the downslope after that. Because you can't control a person for what he is. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody wants to mold a person into something. Jalen Hurts he can be a rare breed quarterback if you let him continue to do what he does, or he can be like the other running quarterback. But you will never know if you don't give him the opportunity to be him first.
Right. Now here's the thing, right, about that, right? The last thing you want to do is take away his superpower, right? You want him to still be who he is. The thing is, you don't want to necessarily take away from his game. You just want him to expand his game, and that's where he has to take the ball by the horns, expanding his game, his legs, him being like the Saints game was arguably his best running performance I've ever seen in my life. Like the way he was able to break guys down patiently, with the jukes and everything, it made it look so effortless. He doesn't even look that fast, but he's deceptive. And he has that wiggle. But we need him to expand his game, right? And if he can expand to becoming, we don't even need him to be an elite passer. If he can get his passing game to a Kirk Cousins level, maybe, or I don't know, maybe even if he can improve his passing maybe to a Tannehill level, or just get your passing ability to a top 12 level with his athleticism, he can be a real issue for the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's the thing. Like everybody keeps saying, if he can be this passing quarterback, just they keep naming all these pocket quarterbacks you want him to be like. You know what I'm saying?
No.
You misquoted me. Like,
okay.
They want to be the pocket quarterback, right? Like,
right.
If he can just accept what he is and let it be, you know what I'm saying? At the same time, that's a lot more better than trying to conform this dude to be something that he's never going to be. Jalen Hurts never been a pocket quarterback in his whole career playing football. You know what I'm saying? Like that, even the 4,000 yards, like I said, that wasn't pocket quarterback. It's because his run game, the fear of him running the ball, helps our running backs get open. You heard Miles Sanders come out and say, "Oh wow, it's a way different with Minshew's quarterback in terms of the running game as opposed to if Jalen was back there because he pulls linebackers. He can set the tone of the whole running game. That's why we were the number one rusher team. The fact that they were scared to death of this man running with the ball. Like you need to have that fear. All the fears you can add up together comes over, the whole pocket quarterback. How many pocket quarterbacks do you know got Super Bowls? Consist of more than one. Like Tom Brady. I know everybody said Tom Brady. Yes. Okay, he's an exception. Obviously, we all can agree on that.
Wow.
Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks ever to play the game. Like everybody can say it, the best pure Thor. Like we keep pushing this guy. You need to be like this pure Thor. That doesn't win championships. For one, teams win championships, and for two, as long as you freaking have the complete team, as long as you have the complete team, that's what matters in terms of winning the Super Bowl. You can be the most elite quarterback you want. Dan Marino is one of the best quarterbacks ever, and he doesn't even have one.
Good point.
So the whole elite quarterback thing is overrated to me.
But BG,
how do you don't have to be an elite quarterback to win anything. If anything, that makes your team worse chance of winning. Because after you give them the money for being elite, it's over.
Bro, what we really saying is we don't want for Jalen we don't want his legs to be his main, source of income. You get me? We don't want that. We want him to be able to throw the football, use his legs as a secondary weapon. You get me? You're gonna have to throw the football in the playoffs. I don't care. You got the best stats in regular. You look at Lamar Jackson. He won an MVP just running around. For real. Basically just running around. Well, every time he get to the playoffs and he get those elite defensive coordinators, he struggled every time. And that we don't want that to be Jalen Hurts' path. You get me?
That's all.
That's all. We don't want that to be Jalen Hurts. He can win anything he wants in the regular season. When we get to the playoffs and you get to like a Todd Bowles or somebody like that, they're going to scheme for you. And when they scheme for you, they're going to find all your weaknesses and they're going to prey on it. So that's what all we want. We want this dude just to use his legs as a secondary weapon.
You let him play the way he plays. Because at the end of the day, the quarterback is not the reason why you win championships. We've seen crappy quarterbacks win Super Bowls, my God. It's a team, defense-centric, how you win a Super Bowl. You have a dominant defense, and you have a comparable offense. That's how you win Super Bowls in the league this year.
I think it's a little bit of both. So
it's a little bit of both, but I'm saying, like,
I
you
think
can
it's
do it with what James did last year. You can win a Super Bowl if you have a team.
Hold on, BG. Go ahead, Steve. I want to hear it.
I think it's dictated by the box you receive. The one thing Jalen Hurts does for running backs is he creates light boxes because you're going to keep perimeter defenders because Jalen Hurts can tuck it at any point and take off on an RPO. He can take off on a zone read. He can take off on different things on you. So he can lighten the box on you, or teams can sell out and bring everybody in the box on you. And that's the point where he's got to be able to make the passes. He's got to be able to make the reads. He's got to be able to make the throws. I'm not saying that he has to necessarily change to the aspect of where it gets into his head that I'm a running quarterback only. And if I don't sit back here and throw, like, no, you let the defense dictate what you do. Like, exactly. If the defense is not going to respect you and they're not going to bring extra people in the box to stop the run it. You run it. If they're going to give you a light box, you keep running it. But I mean, you got to protect yourself. I think that's what Trey Rock was trying to say, which is you can run the ball and be safe, but you can't be trying to throw your shoulder into guys. You can't be acting like you're a running back on the field. It's going to get you hurt. It's only a matter of time before somebody stands you up and you get hit for real. Absolutely. I mean, right now, I think that the NFL is kind of changing. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and I think that we're going to see this with Trey Lance as well. You're going to see these designed run things built around quarterbacks. And, to be fair, three of those dudes, there are other teams that do this, but Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts were the three, crazy amounts that did it well over 100 attempts. Those three guys in particular did. Now, with that said, Jalen was up. I want to say it was around like 100 and I want to say like 30 some rushing attempts, guys. I think that's what it came out to. Somewhere around like 130 something. They got to bring it down a little bit. Like when you break that down over the course of 17 weeks, being able to back that off 2 or 3 times a game, it's going to bring you down to 90 to maybe 105 kind of attempts there. That's where you got to beat it, man. You let the box dictate what you do. If they wanted, like I said, if Tampa Bay wants to bring all those guys in there to play the run, you got to beat them with your arm.
And that's all I want. And that's all we asking for. Hey, Gate, can you answer that question at the bottom? Because I've been wanting to get your perspective on that concept of, you can read the question. I'll read the question. You can answer. It says, Irish Steve says, why is it that when a team drafts a quarterback in the first round, they don't mind letting them take a few years to develop, but a quarterback drafted from second round and back needs to produce quicker? What's the answer to that, Gate?
What's up, Irish Steve? I appreciate the question, man. Long story short, has to do with the contract. It's the contract. It's because the second round picks come up on the contract year sooner. So everyone thinks of the 5th-year option. They think like, man, once you hit the 5th-year option, like it gets expensive for the player. Sure, but not in comparison to a franchise tag. Franchise tag is really, really expensive. So, quarterbacks drafted in the 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, those are the dudes that potentially run the risk of being franchise tagged. It's only happened a few times in NFL history, and a lot of those were 2nd round picks. Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, those type of dudes. They got franchise tagged. And Dak never even played underneath the franchise tag. They franchise tagged him, then they worked out the extension, I believe. But that's what happens, man. It's because of the contract.
Interesting. This conversation has been so intriguing and enlightening because we have 4 different perspectives approaching the game from a different direction. Yet I think we're all coming back to the same convergence, and that is we all want Jalen Hurts to succeed. We all want Jalen Hurts to actually be able to expand his game and to be able to make the defense pay no matter what they show him. And I think that's what we all necessarily want from Jalen Hurts and one from the Philadelphia Eagles. And when you think about the way everything has been built thus far, this team is definitely built to last, but they're also built to be dominant and be potent on the offensive end and defensive end. So, in closing, I would love for each of you guys to give your final thoughts on what's to come on the 2022 season. Trey Rock, you can start, and then we'll close it out with Steve.
I mean, I feel like, to be honest, I feel like we just got to work the schedule. It's like, the thing I hate is I hate seeing schedules like early and be like, oh, this is an easy schedule, because in all reality, you don't know how a team's going to look that year. Every team in the NFL could be good this year. You never know. So, I mean, I'm not going to say this schedule easy. It's favorable, though. It's like we got some
That's the
favorable
better
teams.
word.
Yeah, we got some favorable teams on here. We don't really play any elite quarterbacks. We got Aaron Rodgers, and I can't even call Kyler Murray an elite quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. So I mean, I feel like if this team come together and we could gel and get that chemistry early in like training camp, or even at the beginning of the season, if we struggle a little bit, I feel like we could easily squeeze like 13 wins out of the schedule. I mean, we can stay healthy. I mean, and people doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, hopefully this defense look way better than it looked last year. I mean, I'm not gonna really speak on it too much because we got some names over there, but we seen teams bring names over and it not work out. So, I mean, it all depends on this coaching staff and how these players respond to this coaching staff. And I mean, overall, I want us to have a great season, man. I feel like this season could be special if we play it right.
Great. Go ahead, BG.
Yeah, I agree with him, man. Like, this team, man, is set for greatness. That's how I feel. Like there's like sky's the limit on so many players, and the fact that a lot of players have a lot to prove. You got not only look at the football side of a lot of this, you gotta look at like the whole mental life side of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like these guys have stuff to prove. Kobe Dean drafted third round instead of first round. He was expected to be first round. He got a lot to prove. Kaiser Wright coming over here. Everybody putting money on him, 1 year contract. See what he can do. He got a lot to prove because he wants that next paycheck because he's on the ascending of his contract. Reddick, he got to prove that he can do it on 3 teams now. He did it on 2 teams. You know what I'm saying? Like Bradbury to prove that he can shut down every second receiver now that he has Darius Slay to be on the other side of him. Take all the number ones out of the way. You know what I'm saying? Jalen Hurts proved that he is that quarterback that can lead this team in general. The sky's the limit for these guys. I think the offense is going to be amazing. I think the defense is going to be dynamic. And I really think the Eagles, like you said, 13 wins. Yeah. I got 13-4 as my season prediction, early season prediction right now. And, it can go up. If these guys start doing better, like it matters how fast these guys can get this defense, this offense down. How fast can these guys gel together? And from what I'm seeing right now on film and what we do see, these guys, they're forming a brotherhood. And I know bigger than any skill, the family part of it is what drives teams. You know what I'm saying? Like you hear a lot of these great championship teams that we didn't think that were even that good, that won Super Bowls. They all say, because we became a brotherhood. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's all about, that brotherhood, the familyness. And all these guys are already gelling pretty good together. And I think the sky's the limit for Philadelphia Eagles this year.
Go ahead, Steve. It's all you.
I'll be honest, just the most talent I've seen around the Eagles since, I hate to say it, but since 2004. And I'll be honest with you. I don't think that, I'll be real, I don't think that A.J. Brown is Terrell Owens level talent. But Terrell Owens never had a Devontae Smith playing opposite of him. Right. So I think that this could be a special team if everything falls into place. But the big thing is play calling. I cannot predict it. I cannot predict that they're going to have the right scheme to match in the play calls to do the right thing. With Jim Johnson and Andy Reid, there was the build up to 2004. So we knew those dudes could call plays. We knew those dudes knew how to coach. So that's the separating factor for me. But talent-wise, I think it's there. This is what I'll say in terms of wins. You won 9 games last year. You need to win double-digit games this year. I don't care, 10, 11, 12, 13, put the number on it, whatever you want to. You got to win double-digit games.
Right.
But to me, it's more important that you end this season the right way. You need to get hot at the right time.
Right.
And that's how you build the momentum, right? Because, in 2017 – we had the ability to play the underdog role because of Carson Wentz's injury. Everyone wrote us off, and they were able to ride that emotion to great heights. This is about getting hot at the right time, I believe. You got to get hot at the right time. You got to catch fire at the right time. And you got to come in ready to fight. And I've seen two teams do that. San Francisco almost pulled it off last year. They got hot at the right time. And they almost pulled it off. They came real close to putting down the Rams. And then the other team I saw do that, and I hate to say it,
Giants.
The Giants did it. The Giants got hot at the right time one year and won the Super Bowl off of that.
Mm-hmm. That wild card team, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they did it 2 times actually.
Man, but you guys, you guys been spitting this whole live stream, man. This has been one of the more fun live streams I've had in a long time, man. This has been great. I loved all you guys' perspective. I loved all the passion you guys brought, all the analysis, all the smarts and perspective. At the end of the day, man, you guys have just been great. And first and foremost, we got to shout out to the people that's been tuning into the chat. These people in these live chats have been spectacular. They have been contributing to the conversation in more ways than they probably realize. They've been asking potent questions. They've been bringing up great points. They've been challenging our thought process. They've been holding us accountable. This has been a great live stream, you guys, and I think we really covered a lot when it comes to this Philadelphia Eagles. And honestly, this conversation has made me much more optimistic, and it honestly just put a battery in my back. I'm honestly ready to run through a damn wall. I'm gonna be honest. And
we're getting one of these, baby. We're getting another one of these. I'm telling you, I hate to be that guy, but I am that guy. I'm saying we can win a Super Bowl this year.
But we need guys like you, though. That's my thing.
Like, we need you, though, this year. That's
you
how
are necessary. You are necessary because we need.
For sure, going to win it. I will put money on it in Vegas just because I like to do it for the Eagles anyway. But I really feel like the talent level, like Gay said, man, 2004, man. Like, when have you seen a team constructed like this before? For real. And the thing of all the other quarterbacks that have better defenses and all that we went far with, like, come on now, man. We were freaking supposed to be trash last year.
2017, nobody thought we would do what we did. Let's be honest.
And we went to the playoffs with suspects, everything. Suspect coaches, suspect first-round quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Everybody learning on the fly. That's what it was. It was like everybody's learning process. And the learning process itself was a first-round playoff and, a winning record for the season. So why would you think less this year? Like with all the additions, if we only had 3 new players, that's one thing. Okay, well, we're going to be better than last year. Forget that we're better than last year's stuff. We're about to dominate, guys. Like, that was one of my biggest things. I wanted to hear from you. Do you guys really think, because I'm on the fact that we are a top 10 team in the NFL now.
And listen, if you ask my man Peter King, he considers a top 10 team, man. And I respect Peter King, man. But listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm trying to be humble about it, and I'm trying to just let things play out. I do got us being an 11-win team minimum. But it starts with winning that division.
Yeah,
you gotta win your division games, and you have to. I'm gonna be honest, man. You got to put a rattlesnake in the damn Cowboys' boots, man. Mm-hmm. You got to put a rattlesnake in their boot, because don't get it twisted. Yes, they've lost some talent, but they're gonna still play us tough. They still technically have the better quarterback. We got to be honest about that. So at the end of the day, it's not Jalen Hurts versus Dak Prescott. No matter how much people want to make it about that, it's not Jalen Hurts versus Dak Prescott. It's Jalen Hurts versus the Cowboys defense. And it's Dak Prescott versus the Eagles defense. Now, who do you trust more versus what defense? I'm going to be honest with you. It's a toss-up, and we're going to have to see it play out. But you guys, this live stream has been spectacular. Everyone in the live stream, make sure you guys smash that like button. The like button has been on fire all evening. I want you guys to make sure you're subscribed to my man, One Trey Rock. Smash the like button in his stream. Please go subscribe to my man, One Trey Rock. My man has been giving us food regularly. Subscribe to my man, One Trey Rock. Make sure you guys go subscribe to my man, BIRDGANG 31, and go subscribe to the BGN Network. Go subscribe, go lock in. So much great content for you guys to consume. And last but certainly not least, the man of the 2 hours, the special guest, the Mr. Analytics himself, Mr. Breakdown the game film to the T himself, Gate City Sports, Steve Hyder. You have been a spectacular guest. You've been more than patient with us. You've been great, and I can't ask for anything more, my man. Like, keep doing what you do. Everyone, go subscribe to Gate City Sports if you haven't already. You gotta do. You got to. If you subscribe to us, you gotta be subscribed to Gate City. It don't even make sense. It's only right. But you guys, make sure you guys lock in on everyone's channel. Subscribe to One Trey Rock. Hit the like buttons. Subscribe to BG31, the BGN Network. Gate City Sports, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button, you guys. Also, make sure you guys go subscribe to my channel as well, Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. BG31, end it, my man.
We out. Peace.